Hey, we're live and good evening and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. I have DT here.
Hi, how you doing, everyone? I'm DT. I rule the universe. I control everything. I control the television. I control the internet. I'm in charge.
DT, why are you doing this to humanity?
Because I can, and it's fun to make people miss.
Really? No. Hey, Nate, how you doing, buddy? This is DT. DT, tell me, what does DT stand for?
It stands for Dimensional Terrestrial.
What?
You've heard of ET, that's extraterrestrial, right?
Yes.
And there is the paranormal, there's the terrestrial, meaning everything on this planet is terrestrial. But they have other places that they come from.
Oh, well, let's see. Doing well, my friend. Yep. How are you and DT holding up? Well, it's becoming spring, and man, I am ready to, hit the road. And a number of people have said, "Oh, I'm going to come and get you, Sensei Bob, and we're going to have a road trip." So the first one who shows up, I am jumping in the cart. I'm like, been here up on the mountain at the school. I mean, I love the school. It's like, it's like one of my special places, but and my host, John, is a great guy. He's got a great heart. But we all, life is like a stream, and we're sitting on a rock. We're looking at the stream. Now there's downstream and upstream, right? And the stream is coming this way, and we're sitting there. It's a beautiful morning and it's warm. It's like Goldilocks time. The sun is out. Everything is beautiful. The breeze is beautiful. And it's like right now, spring, and everything is budding and flowering and smelling great. And you're sitting on that rock and you watch this leaf flutter down and go into the stream, and it flows in front of you. And as it flows in front of you, right when you see it, you have this aha moment. You see the beauty of the leaf. You see how the light bounces off the leaf. You see how everything is amazing about the leaf, and you want that leaf, right? And it's just like any addict who's addicted to a substance, how they become addicted, and especially things like heroin. So someone says, "Hey man, you want to try some heroin?" And they like shoot them up, and it's like that first rush, and that's why they call it the train. It's like, whoa, right? And then from that point on, the addict continually tries to get his fix to understand. Hey Janie, how you doing? Road trip, yes, come and get me, girlfriend. Right now I'm in Roanoke, and I'll be here for a week or so. And then, and the Deep Green is right on the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, between Johnson City, Tennessee, and Boone, North Carolina, right? So if you're really gonna come and get me, I'm either here in Roanoke, right? You come and get me, or in a week or two, I'm going to be in the Deep Green, getting the place ready for the cadre to show up. And you just, get a hold of me at Dreamy Dreamland. No. That's the YouTube channel. Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob. That's the channel. But the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Drop me a line there. You're in America, give me your phone number. I'll give you a buzz. Hey, Twitch, how you doing, girl? Hey, yo, everyone. How is life going? It's spring. It's beautiful. I'm here with DT, the Uber God. Has anyone ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe? And the mice ruled the world. Well, that's DT. He is. You're talking about the hidden hand. Here's the hidden hand right here. His hidden hand. He controls everything, and DT stands for dimensional terrestrial. Right? That's me. DT. I rule everything. I cause the wars like everyone. I spray things in the air. Have you eat genetically modified organisms? Oh, I love screwing with you. Yes, that's DT. And yet, I want to be good. I really do. I want to do the right thing. But. Meaning we got to watch out, like Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify. Let's see. I knew Chuck E. Cheese was no good. Yes. Yes, I am no good. If you little kids eat that pizza, I got you mind controlled. What do you think? You got ADD and every other drug-driven thing that children have to go through. It's because of me and my pizza. But I'm not Chucky. I am DT. Mm-hmm. And again, I want to make this totally clear. This is Sensei Al Bob at Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your griot. I tell you stories. This is all for your entertainment. I am the soupy sales of the 21st century, and this is my white fang, black tooth, right? Childhood gambling. Yes. Talk about, control populations. Let's see. Anyway, so Janie, get a hold of me. Like I said, on the Dude Awake 42 Gmail, and I'll get right back to you. And like I said, you can leave me your old phone number. And so I've been watching you, Jane, and taking your walk with your dogs. And I love your meditative videos. They're really sweet. And you really have a nice neighborhood where, it's your version of the deep green, that's for sure. So. Extraterrestrial, I'm a dimensional terrestrial. That's all of us. All of the little shadows, the bumps in the night, that's us. We're from another dimension. We can just slip in and slip out. I basically slip in and out through the little boy's room at the fast food stores. Ooh. It's getting under my tonsils, all this kind of funkiness. God knows how old this is. This is from John's childhood. That's right. Why do you think John's the way he is than me? Right? Anyway. Yes, that's why it's dreamy. And Jane, have you looked at the, May 8th will be 1 year of Dreamy Dreamland, right? And if you go look at the early ones I did, I was in the deep green for that part of the summer. From May until October, I was there. And, that place has no internet, no cell phone, no cable TV, no TV radio, because it's what they call sawtooth mountains that cut the radio waves up. So there's nothing. The only thing I get is the skip of the AM late at night, so I can listen to the radio late at night. And because of the way the mountains are, and I'm not at the top, I'm in a holler, you can't even get satellite because it's a long, not way up there. It's like along there. And because the mountains are doing this, it's hard to get a line of sight onto a satellite. So anyway, that's one reason I really like that place. This is peppermint oil. And I am very susceptible to every kind of food known to man. And I'm not allergic to it, but I kind of, it gives me a sour tummy. If a vegetable is off just a little bit or way too GMO-y, I'm like, it doesn't take forever for me to go, And certain oils, I'm very susceptible to oils. So, but this knocks down that stuff. Just a little on your lips, or a few drops in a bottle or a glass of water. Peppermint, the best. DT, that's right. Dimensional terrestrial. And pretty much everything that goes bump in the night is nothing. Hey, 09, I haven't seen from you in a while. How you doing, bud? We have DT, the ruler of the universe.
Hi, I'm DT. I'm the hidden hand. Here's the hidden hand right here.
Yeah, this guy's in control of everything. It's just like, the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, and the people who created everything with the white mice. Well,
I created them.
Yep. So you just got to watch out. Yep. This is a show. Hi. I have no idea. Let's see. So what did 09? Hey, I'll rub that peppermint oil on your chest. It needs a quick pick. Yeah, this is true. On your heart chakra. This is very true. It's something physical. Pick up. Yeah, or doing something. Yep, exactly. And essential oils are, they have been, one of my greatest tools for at least 40, 50 years. I feel like program bot around TT. That's right. So
I'm gonna go away, okay? I'll come back maybe later, but right now I'm gonna wee.
So we got rid of DT there. So that's one of the my new little parts of the show is I'm going to try and be the soupy sales of the 21st century, just like Cowboy Bob was. Cowboy Bob is the Will Rogers of the 21st century. So I'm trying to build these characters, right? And so that's where we're at. Hey, Stacy. Hello. Woo, 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 woo. So it's spring, guys. Today was a interesting day because everything like up here kind of just jumped out. It was like taking its time, it's just exploded. And now down below, it's green everywhere. You can't see anything. The leaves are coming in big time. So today I was out and about, and I went and talked to a few friends who said, hey, I need to talk to you. So I went and talked to them. But I had a great day because I talked to about 10 people. Very, very, very. Not the same kind of people. All different kinds of people. But what they were so I was like just sitting around, and people walk by, and they kind of look at me. I look at them, hey, how you doing? And if they kind of went, I let them go on. And I was telling the story of the leaf in the pond, right? And it's a beautiful day, spring day. Everything is and the wind is blowing, and that last leaf from last year's fall comes off the tree and flutters in the stream going by you, right? Now, downstream, it's over there coming towards us. Upstream, or the other way around. Upstream coming towards us, downstream going that way. And you're sitting on a rock looking at that leaf, and it flutters down, goes in the water. And as that, just before it hits that water, it's this transcendental moment of like, right? And it's like that. Right. And I was saying, it's just like that first time you shoot heroin and you have this rush and wow. And then you spend the rest of your life until you OD trying to re-experience that experience. Thing is, life is not meant to be re-experienced. And so the vision I want you guys to see is here's the spring, right? And I mean, this stream, and it's taking, a leaf comes in, ooh, and from that point on, and then it goes downstream out, right? Stage left. And from that point on, you go back to that spot and you wait for the leaf. And maybe the leaf is coming from upstream and it's coming down. So you're looking longingly upstream, but you're not looking at your life. You're not looking what's right in front of you. You're missing the leaf that's right there because you're looking for, you're expecting, you want this, right? And and because you're not looking at your life at the moment of your life, you're looking upstream, from the future, wanting this expectation of having this rush of experience where the little neural processes in your head are getting shot with dopamine from that experience, or you're looking longingly downstream at where the leaf had gone, and maybe I should go there. Or if the leaf is there, you get up and you want it, you need it, you gotta get it, you gotta get it. Well, no matter what, over anybody's anything, I gotta have that. And you jump up and you jump into the stream, and you're grabbing for that leaf, and it's never, you can never catch it, but you're getting sopping wet, and you slip and you fall in the mud, and then you drown and you die. That thing we're looking to do is to sit on that rock within the texture of the Goldilocks, everything's perfect, and you're open to that, right? You're in the moment, and the leaf is there. And you experience the leaf in its totality, and it's a complete experience. You don't need to repeat it. You don't need to have it again. You don't need to capture it. You don't need to save it. You don't need to own it. No, because you've had a complete experience, right? And that's what life's about, having that complete experience, right? So today, I was out and about, and I went to see two people who called me up and said, hey, I need to talk to you. I need to run some stuff by. I want your opinion. They wanted their Sensei Al Bob to, give them a hand. And so, yeah, I'm here. Just like I'm here for you, I'm always there for my friends. Just like John, I don't give up on that boy. I am his friend. Now I'm having to reconsider things of like, hey, am I enabling certain things? Or, I want him to have the best life he can have. I want him to be happy. I want him to have the ability to have that kind of transcendental moment with the leaf, instead of constantly, oh, do I need to do this? No. Anyway, so I was out and about, and I talked to in the morning, I talked to one person, and then in the afternoon, I went and saw another person. But in between, I saw about 10 other people, because I went to my friend in the morning, and he in his business, and he was having meetings, and he said, hey, can you give me, come back in about 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. And I did. I went out and I sat in the sun, and people came by. And like I said, a lot of people coming by, but certain people would come, and they look at me, I look at them, I say, how you doing? And they'd, well, okay. And then, so we'd start a conversation, and I energetically felt that these people needed to talk to someone, and they needed someone to listen. Most people get into a conversation and they don't listen. They just wait for the pause so they can jump in and tell their story, right? Now, people who do the YouTube thing, well, we're constantly the people making the story, and you guys are putting down the chat, and I often don't read it. I try and go back and read it, right? And then read it and talk about it. And I try and do that as best I can. And I think we have a nice little homeostasis of me trying to read and you writing. And anyway, it's not me only wanting to talk, but I am the griot telling you these shamanic stories to get in your little head that stay there. They go into your dreaming. In dream time, you see things, and I'm kind of cracking open the doorway for you to see stuff, right? So there I did. So pretty much all day from about 9 until when I came back here around 3, I had this amazing day where I talked to these two people. I talked to them not just for minutes, but both this person for about 3 hours and this person for about an hour and a half, till they came to the resolution, and I gave them that insight they needed, and they said, thank you. Oh, wow, I needed that. And so, on this, can you like take on a project of you thinking about something and giving me feedback? And I said, okay. So, in about a week or so, I'm going to come back and I will have thought about what we've said in the last hour and a half. I'll make notes. I've already made notes from one of my composition books, and I'll write something. I might even type it down and put it on a thumb drive so he can stick it in his computer and have it there, and he can write about it. And that's kind of how when I was a shrink, that's kind of one of the things I used to do. I would write things for people and have them write back. Right now we're living in the digital age. We can have platforms that we can do this. Anyway, so I talked to him, and then, like I said, I talked about to 10 people, and then I talked to this other person for about 3 hours. So I had a great day of talking to about 15 people where I mostly listened and then said the quintessential thing they needed to hear. And they were like, oh, yeah, okay. Right. And then we would talk a little bit about that. And then they would talk more. And I'd listen. I'd say another quintessential thing. And so my whole day was me doing that and getting jazzed out of me helping others have a breakthrough and being happy about it. Like, whoa. Right. And that made my day. And it was a beautiful day. It was a little cool, but it was okay. I had a nice, a scarf in my hat. And that is that same experience of sitting on the rock, watching, being there for the leaf. And each of those people, I was actively listening in a way that they were the leaf. I was appreciating. I was getting it totality. And I had a feedback loop of telling them stuff where they were like, oh, wow. Musings and healings with Sensei Al. That's me, baby. And it's the cadre and the chorus and the shock troops of love, right? And what I really, in a week or two or three, whatever it takes to get to that place, either someone's, Jane, you're going to come and get me. 3 or 4 other people have offered to come and get me. So whoever comes and gets me the first is who I'm going with. And what that will be, like, Jane, if you come and get me, our road trip will basically be, I want to do it like as a live chat, whether you're, if you've got a really great phone that hooks into your, service provider, and we can do it on that, or we go to some place like a restaurant or a thing and do a live chat there. But we do the conversation with the people we run into. And on my channel, some 500 plus shows, I do that. I would say 1 out of every 10 or 20 shows I'll be around. And back when my phone, where I could just push my phone button saying go live, I would have a conversation with somebody, like one of the 10 people I rolled into today. And you'll see I'm out and about talking to people, and I capture them at their quintessential moment, just like that leaf. And it's there. So, whoever picks me up and takes me on the road, and I need to get the fuck out of here. I've been here since October. And I mean, I love John as a friend and I want the best, but I just need, and that's why I go downtown every day to meet people and to go to the library and work on my novels. And if you haven't read any of my stuff, go to xratted.blogspot.com. That's X-rated, right? And it's X-rated. And you'll see I have 1 novel there, and I have 3/4 of it because I don't have, each of my novels, I have a guide directory at the end, last 30 to 40 pages. Because as I write, and I'm writing about a concept or something, and I can't quite capture it totally in my writing, I'll put an asterisk there and say, go to the directory, and I will write a more kind of research-oriented, like when you leave I got this from such and such, right? I will give the explanation of the history of the philosopher, of the science, or the this or the that. Bingo, there it is. So whoever comes and gets me, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take this, and it'll be the precursor to the traveling video art circus, because in the deep green, hey, buddy bud, Dr. Bob. I'm here. I'm always here for you, buddy. Anyway, so at the Deep Green, we're going to try to develop the traveling video art circus. And the idea is that this will be a 501c3 nonprofit. And what we will make a website, and we will have a what is it when you syllabus? We'll have a syllabus, and we will offer to universities. Now, when I worked in universities, people, I had my little research thing, but I pretty much had a lot of free time on my hands. And when I was there, people would say, "Hey, listen, we need somebody responsible to run the student activities department for this semester. You want to do that? We'll give you an extra $100 a week for doing that." And I said, "Sure." So every group that wanted to have like a club or wanted to have bands or lectures, and I let the kids do everything. And I would call it the Freely Inquiring Society. That's what I would call wherever at a university when I was, when I would, I'll run this thing, but I wouldn't call it the Student Activity Fund. I would call it the Freely Inquiring Society. And that was the motif or the intent, not just to have, beer blasts or, people go crazy. No, have lots of fun, have bands, have poetry, have whatever you want, but it had to be coming from the intent of to have a freely, meaning open, not free, but open, inquiring to understand society, community, just like the cadre. So we start this thing called the Traveling Video Art Circus, right? We start our website, and then we make a curriculum, and we send this out to universities. And all these guys, they take the tuition, the housing, and they get $300 to $500 from each student for the Student Activity Fund, which they have to spend that semester. They can't roll it over to the next one. It becomes a slush fund. So they got to spend it. So they do anything, have lectures, do all kinds of stuff. And they are just looking for something to basically express themselves, right? And so if we can put a good curriculum where we have, entertainment, education, lectures, exercise, hikes, whatever, that brings a sense of that freely inquiring society to that school, that community, to make them connected, to make them a better place, to bring forth love's co-creation. That's what we're going to sell. And that'll be an amazing, revenue stream, because we can do this and we can say, "Oh, we'll come there for a week. You put us up in dormitories. All of us will be all over the place. We'll be there lecturing and talking to the kids in their dormitories. We'll put on shows. We'll get them to do everything and have the excitement. We'll be there a week. Give us $15,000. And if we get a good enough website and a good enough syllabus, and we get it done by August 1st of this year, because that's the kind of time they need for the fall semester. Now, they don't book everyone by, September, but they need to be thinking about it. And if we get that on their desk, by the 1st of August, we will be one of the first things that they see. And boy, this is pretty cool. Yes. And we have pictures and this and that. And I got a lot of pictures. I mean, we can put together a nice folder, a nice website, a nice syllabus. And I bet you dollars to donuts, that first fall semester, first time we do it, we have, we'll get 5 to 6 colleges, for a week at a time. And if we get $10,000 to $15,000 times 5 or 6, that's a nice chunk of change. There's 5 or 8 of us. That's like everyone's going to, in those, 5 to 8 weeks, we will all be making like 10 to 20,000, a nice chunk of change, right? And we'll be able to put money into the piggy bank of the 501c3. It's all tax-free. Yes, we get paid, but it's still tax-free because 501c3. So, and I've done this many a time. I've started a number of things, and it's just the hardest part of doing this is to get the core cadre of 4 or 5 people who want to say, yeah, I want to do this. Because basically, after you get the 4 or 5 people, what you do is whatever college town or university you cruise into, you get them to do all the work. Then between all of us, I mean, I've already talked to a number of my bohemian artist, scholarly friends who are looking for something to do. They're like retired from their mammoth careers, and they're not dead yet, and they're still looking to have fun. And, I known them for 40, 50 years, and every time we do something, we have a lot of fun. Like in the 70s and 80s in New York City, I helped start a thing called Collaborative Artist Projects. And the NEA had a lot of money for the arts. And you know who started the NEA? North Carolina Senator Jesse Helms, a real piece of work. And he did it not because he loved art. What he wanted to do is to show the commies that we had culture too, right? So, but all of that money went to the rich people, their operas and their ballets and their this, and their big, museums. There's nothing for the artists. And that's what collaborative artists was. It was a bunch of artists collaborating, right? So we started I was writing grants for lawyers. So I said, hey, I can write a grant. So we did. I knew a woman on the board of the NEA and one of my mentors from Juilliard. And I said, this is what I want to do. And this is how I want to do it. And what do you think? Oh, this is great. No one is doing that. So, we applied and because of her and a few other people that were on the board that were her friends, we got a grant, for a nice chunk of change, And because we got that grant, we got a grant from the New York State Arts Council, and we got a grant from the New York City Arts Council, and we got a grant from the Ford Foundation. We got from about 6 other things of that nature, and we were off to the races. And the first thing that we were all down in the Lower East Side, where and so we rented a couple of storefronts, and we started an art gallery called No Say No, which you can go Google this, collaborative artist projects, No Say No. And we started, we got a TV show on Manhattan Public Access. It was called Potato Wolf. And it was on Thursdays, and we had a 90-minute show. And there were about 9 of us who were the producers. We'd all come up with ideas. We'd have dinner on Sunday and run through all this stuff. We'd pick 3 people who had the best idea or who hadn't done one yet. And then the rest of us would help them put on those 3 shows. And there'd be 3 shows in 90 minutes. Every half an hour was a different show. And the show that I ran, because I knew all these other people, there was a woman called, you can Google her, Coca Crystal. And she was the woman with a funny hat, the grand dame of marijuana. And she had this great thing where you called up this number, and they would, and you'd say, oh, I want this, and a guy would bring you that in a pizza box, and he'd be riding a bicycle, right? And so the basic way it worked was, you called this number, that you would leave. It was like a beeper, and that number would call you back, just like a Chinese restaurant does, and would dial that number and find out that it was you, and so they would show up within 20 minutes with a pizza box of what you wanted. And so she was amazing. And she was like the angel of mercy. So she had a show, a cooking show, where she made cookies and brownies and other edibles on the thing, and then passed it out to everyone, and we get toasted, we get baked, and that was Coca Crystal's baked show, right? And then there was another woman who I went to NYU with named Annie Sprinkle, and she was an anthropologist, sociologist, and her whole thing was sex workers, and she wanted, not to have those women taken advantage of, but give them an honest, kind of like what goes on in Las Vegas, right? And so she would bring on sex workers, and they would show how to, have sex, safe sex, good sex, and they would demonstrate, right? After eating a few of Coca's brownies, and then I had a show called Tesla Speaks, which was all about Tesla. And I had a friend, Alan Moore, who kind of looked like him. I drew a mustache on him, like Groucho Marx. And we shot a lot of stuff out in Central Parks where he'd be feeding pigeons. And then we would go to Shambhala and talk about the kind of stuff that I talk about, physics and science and philosophy. And that was one show. And then I had a girlfriend who was a martial artist, really teeny thing, but could kill, right? And we were living at the time on 16th Street and West, near a place called Westbeth, which was this co-op for artists. But it was like, it was like near the West Village. It was between, Soho and the West Village. And that's where there was a hotel there where all the punks used to live, and a lot of famous people OD'd there. And we lived in that neighborhood, and right there was the meatpacking district. And my boss, I worked for Joshua Light Show and Pig Lights, and Bob Goddard owned that. And so I was his electrician. I wasn't just a grip. I didn't just, hang a light and run a wire. I made it work, brought the electricity there. I was the magician. And I did the stuff nobody wanted to, hook up straight to Con Ed. I mean, you could get this kind of, you were a licensed electrician, you had a permit from Con Ed in the city, you could just go and you would pay them a chunk of money, and they wouldn't worry about metering because you're only going to use it for 5, 6, 10 hours. Anyway, so I worked in that meat district, and then all those meat packing guys had big refrigerators and had big, nasty electric things that chopped up meat. And so always broke. They could never find somebody to fix it. So since I was living there, I would fix their refrigeration, and I would fix these like band saws and all these machines they had to butcher meat in the assembly line thing. Anyway, so I became like part of the butchering brotherhood. And they had this bar, the Butcher's Bar, that's what it's called. And you didn't pay for anything. The only way you got in was you had to have one of your white coats, right? And so I fixed their things, and this guy, here, come over to the bar. Here's a couple, so he gave me a bunch of white coats so I could come bring somebody. And I was, living with this woman, and she was like maybe 5'5", and she was an Aikido master. She could just take people apart. And she had her own hambu where she taught women how to protect themselves. Right? This is in the 70s. And virtually 3 or 4, she loved red meat, and she loved to get drunk, and she loved these big guys who were like cows. She loved like punching them and just, having a great old time. And she was one sexy young lady, and she was very curvy, and she would wear her white coat, and it would like drag on the ground, and she would wear, just a brassiere and a little, tutu, and really tall high heels. And these guys just loved her. And she was great, and she was brilliant and smart, and she was her own woman, and she did not, and she had, Annie Sprinkle was her buddy. That's how I met her. And so anyway, one night we go there, she gets exceedingly drunk, and I'm not a big drinker because when I get drunk, I don't remember anything. I hate losing control. I'm an Aquarian, kind of near Capricorn, so I'm always the designated driver. I'm always the person, and drugs, I don't like them too much either. It's because I'm too sensitive. It's like, I don't need drugs. All I have to do is meditate, and I'm, out in near Plato. Anyway, so we have a great night, and they would serve you steaks just like Flintstones, these gigantic things they put on your car and it fall over. Anyway, so we we have a grand night, and she's totally on another planet. She's not even speaking English, and we're walking down this alley going towards where we are. We're like cutting through an alley, and someone has turned off all of the streetlights. So this alley is not illuminated by streetlights, it's out. And what that really meant in that kind of neighborhood, in any neighborhood like that, was that somebody did that, because all you had to do is you had to have an Allen wrench. You can open up the bottom of the street light, and they have a fuse there. That's for that light. And everyone, so all you got to do is loosen the fuse, the light goes out. And someone had done that to about 10, like a block and a half was blacker than black. And I'm picking my spidey senses going, this ain't good. And she's going, wow, and she's like flying around in her tutu, and she's wearing her brassiere and this white coat covered in blood. Just, it was mercurochrome, but she wanted to look like the guys, and they didn't wear they wore whatever white coat they worked on that day, covered in blood. And anyway, so we're going down this alley, and I'm going, I have to protect my woman. What am I going to do? And I'm looking for a 2x4. I'm just right. And as I'm looking, and you can't see anything, as I'm looking around, which is the worst thing you can do, like look here instead of being aware of what's around you, I start hearing smashing and crashing and things flying through the air and screams and all the rest. And so I go, I can't, something's going on. So I find the street light, and the little door is open, and I screw the fuse in, and one light lights up. And there's about 8 guys, and they're hanging from, the ladder of the fire escape. They're in dumpsters. They're crawling away. And she is just, she's, and she is just taken out 8 guys. I mean, just, and I go, honey, and she goes, like this at me, baby, it's me. Come on, let's go home. Okay, take me home. And so we go home, and she's like wild in bed and just conks out, and I'm like, whoa. And so, I get up, I drink a cup of tea, I start writing in my journal, and then I go back to bed. Next morning, I wake up, and I'm like, a little tired from all of that. And she's already up, and she's running around, and she's in a tiger skinned brassiere and a thong, right? But tiger, and she's wearing high heels. She just always wear, because she's 5'5", always, going to the bathroom. She didn't have slippers, she had high heels. So, so I'm in bed, and I'm looking up like that, and she's ready to go. She's ready to jump on me, and I look at her, and the light is coming from the east right through this big window we had that went down onto West Street. And the light's coming from her back, and she's totally illuminated, and she's got gold all around, and she's like, ooh, right? And right then and there, I get this amazing idea. Wow, this is, where's my camera? I got to take a picture of this. I'm going to make a painting of it. I got to do something. This is like the leaf in the pond, like, wow, this is transcendental moment. There's a deeper meaning here. I got to capture this so I can keep thinking about this, and can't find my camera. I don't have my sketch pad. I go, okay, I'm just gonna, go into state and put it, on a page in the Akashic record. I'm not gonna forget this one. So, she jumps my bones. We spend the rest of the morning in bed before we both have to get up and go to work, which we're late for. And but it's good to be the boss, right? So crews were already working, and where were you? Good to be the boss. So anyway, that image is just seared in my mind, and I'm thinking, and one day, and she liked, a lot of my girlfriends liked, they would come and be with me when I would work any old time, not just 9 to 5. I was the boss. Something needed to get done, I would go, I'd have the keys, I'd go there, and I'd work at night, I'd work on the weekends, just so everything would be never behind, just on time, right? So, so that we were working on it was a very strange office being used Oh, for by psychologists in studying people for advertising, and they had like rooms that had all kind of special lights, um, and instruments and one-way mirrors and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm working on this thing, and it was a whole open floor, and so nothing was built, and I was working on running pipes up in the ceiling and bringing power up to the floor. So this was a totally big open floor, and there were windows all the way around, and it was high enough, at least above the 10th floor. It was in a pretty, not a skyscraper, but commercial building. And it was weekend, nobody was there, and the light was pretty amazing. And I did have my camera this time. I always carry a camera with me. Now that I always carried a camera. As a photographer. Anyway, so she got the little itch, and so she takes off her clothes and gives me the wink, and again the light is coming from behind her, and she's wearing this leopard outfit, and now I got my camera, and she loved getting her picture taken. Oh, it's photo time! So yes, so she's like showing off, and I'm taking her picture, and that's when this idea comes into my mind: cave girl. She's like hunched over. She's like a cave girl, right? And I'm going, oh, this is going to make a great TV show, because I'm doing all these TV shows on Manhattan Access Cable. And I bring it to a Sunday dinner, and I show these pictures. I said, I got this idea. My girlfriend, it's going to be Cave Girls. And we're going to advertise on the show with her picture, with these pictures. We'll do a montage of these pictures. And we will tell the audience, any male who wants to come and beat this woman up, who won't want to have a fight live on television, like WWF wrestling. But these guys, doesn't matter how big you are or what think you can do. If you're a badass, come and beat this little woman up. See what happens, And so she's an Aikido master. I mean, she's like Bam Bam and Fred Flintstone. So we put that out for a couple of weeks, and we get unbelievable response in our fan mail. And my friend, who we used to every Sunday go to their loft, we had the mail sent to their P.O. box, and we'd have bags of our TV show. And the biggest response we ever got was this little advertisement we were doing on the WrestleMania we were going to have. And so I went to a lawyer friend of mine. I said, I want a contract written up where this guy is going to try to beat up this little woman. No matter what, if we break his back, his neck, his this or that, he is relinquishing any responsibility. He is taking it on himself 100% by going at this girl and not holding anything back, but going at her. Whatever comes to him, it's like on his nickel. Plus, it's going to be live on Manhattan cable TV. So millions of people have the potential of watching this, because Manhattan cable in New York City was one of the first places to have cable, because all of those tall buildings, the antenna was on top of the Empire State Building. If you were watching TV, it was like Ghost City, because it bounced all over on all these skyscrapers, and you'd have your little rabbit ears, and you see, just terrible. So that's why cable came into New York City in the 50s, right? And it was also a test motif. So this is in the 70s. So by that time, pretty much everyone in New York City had cable. And so they had, all the ABC, CBS, all those things, and WPIX, WNEW, and a few others. And they had, Public, and I don't know if this time they had HBO. HBO was the first thing. They might have had HBO. Maybe not. I'm not quite sure. But they had 12 channels of public access, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, 12. And the first were, this kind of show. We were called a variety show, entertainment, right? But they had channels that you could go on there, and you could have advertisers on there. The channel we were on had no advertising, but it only cost $75 for 90 minutes. And that included the rental of the studio and the cameras and the connections and everything, right? And one engineer. We had to have our own camera people, our own switcher, our own Chiron, our own sound guy. But we had an engineer to, like, if anything, oops, we got to do this, right? We could do the other stuff. But anyway, so that was our crew. We had about 9 of us in Potato Wolf. So we have the first shows on. And, she's in this leopard thong, and she's got a very shapely body, and she's got the most amazing uplifting leopard brassiere. And she's got high heels on, strapped on kind of boot high heels. And we have a line out to 6th Avenue. Like 40 guys are lined up to take their shot at this woman. And the first guy is like the biggest, baddest, meanest, right? And so he goes out there, and she just stands like this, right? And she starts just giving him, boy, you're a fat slob. Boy, you're really stupid. I bet you don't ever, have you seen someone like this? You couldn't get it up if you tried. I bet you. And she just went after him, and he was like, ah! And she lifts up her leg and sticks her high heel into his throat. He falls back, and that we had guys with stretchers carried him out, and she could have like pierced his esophagus with this, but she hit a nerve that just, not like Spock's pinch. She got him with a high heel right there with his, I think it's, what vein is that if you stop the blood flow, and she just touched it for a second, and he keeled over. and there were guys have the thing, and like the next guy kind of saw this, and he was like, but he wasn't gonna. So, and then she basically grabs this Aikido move. It's all about, and she grabs him and just throws him, because it's not her throwing this 300-pound gorilla across the studio. It's that she is twisting his arm in a way that his arm wasn't designed to go. He's in such pain. He's jumping through the air to get away from that pain. And he just, and the camera follows him. Right? Anyway, after the first, and that was just 30 minutes of her doing that. Right. And then she sits with Coca Crystal, eating brownies and talking to Andy Sprinkle about sex. And a star was born. And the term that NBC used, must-see TV, we invented it. And that was our like prime show. But our other shows were popular too. We had this other show called Between the Lines, where we made these sticky things and we made universal product codes on them. And it was like after the corporate wars, and the corporations own everyone, right? And I was a big, I was researching admiralty law. Go watch Maxwell, Jay Maxwell, about admiralty law, right? And so, that was that show. And we would take the Wall Street Journal and take it out of context and turn it sideways and use that as the things we would write shows about. But it was like in the near future, like 2025, which we're almost at. And it's amazing. We did this in 70, when was it? 77 to 83 or 4. And so the stuff we did on that show is so close to what's going on. We had Donald Trump as president. I mean, we were ahead of The Simpsons. And so by our mid thing of our first year of doing the show, we, on Thursday nights, we had higher Nielsen rating than any network in New York City on cable. More people were watching us. Millions of people were watching us rather than, Happy Days, right? And it was amazing because my sweetie and I would be walking the street. Oh, look, there she is. It's the Kate girl, And it was like, and we'd be in a supermarket and we'd be waiting online, and the kid, oh, well, can I have your autograph? And we'd have grandmas saying, can I have your autograph? I really love your show. I mean, Every age group, every gender, every species was watching our show. And that's what I want to take on the road as the traveling video art circus. I know how to have a good time. I know how to get the best out of people. I mean, I wasn't doing all this. I was just one of 9 producers, but I was like the juggler, right? You know, and I got everyone to play nice in the sandbox because artists have some pretty big egos, and we had some pretty big egos, but we all got along. We all, just like the chorus here, everyone gets along. Jug Fu, thank you, Buddy. I can always depend on Buddy for the most apropos comment. So 09, Lama, what does that stand for? I have no idea what that. I think I know what LOL is, not laugh out loud. That's what that means, but I never quite figured. But Jug Fu, I love that, Buddy. That is like, so ladies, Jane, Twitchy. Now, what's your opinion on this? Because this was the 70s, and this was like the women's liberation crew loved this. And one time we had my girlfriend brought her whole class of women, right? And she was the only one in the her outfit. The rest had their white things with their black belts. And it was like WrestleMania, it was like go at it, 6, 7 guys, 6, 7 women, bodies flying through the air. And in the, I don't know how many, about less than a year we did that show because we all kind of got burned out because we had lives, marriages, kids, businesses, and we were artists, and we were doing this, and we were running other stuff because what the beauty of collaborative artist projects was. So we were doing all this stuff that gave people ideas, and we brought them into all the shows and all the different things we were doing, and then we let them do it. So entities like Franklin Furnace and The Kitchen and PS1 and Brooklyn, BAM, and the Knitting Factory. They all came through us. They did it themselves. We gave them support and confidence, and they did things with us. We had a show in this thing called the military terminal, and every bomb, bullet, and tank that went to World War II went through that building. All the railroads went to there, and the freedom boats, so they turned it into what they have now. It was the beginning of containerism. That's why we, won that war. We just nonstop bringing, tanks, bullets, and everything to Europe. We just outproduced. Germany was getting bombed into, the Stone Age, but they were still producing more weapons than they did in the beginning. America, no one was bombing them. They had, unlimited oil and mineral resources and labor, women. So this building had 6 million square feet, right? And every body that came back on those Liberty ships and, was processed through that building. So the vibe of that building was, Darth Vader, nasty, war, bad. I mean, thousands of dead bodies went through this place. So it's an amazing building, all poured concrete. Really, the guys who did the Pentagon did this thing, and that building won the war. So it had 8 million square feet, and New York City Development Corp and the Brooklyn Development Corp wanted to move the whole garment district from 8th Avenue and move it into this building because, all the highways, the airports, the boats, everything was right there, transportation. So whereas the garment district had turned 8th Avenue into one big parking lot. The whole, west side of the garment district was like a mess traffic-wise from 6th Avenue all the way over to the Hudson River. So they, great idea. But every time anybody went in that place, it was like, So we went to the Brooklyn Development Corp, one of the people in that I knew, and he knew we were doing crazy shows all over Manhattan and all kinds of spaces. I want to take you someplace. Takes me there. So what could you do with this place? And I go, wow. I said, wow, we can do. And he goes, this is the process. So what do you feel? You're Mr. Mystic. What do you feel? I said, well, I feel a lot of dead bodies, a lot of anger, a lot of hate, a lot of violence, do you think it's not me asking you, but me asking you, do you think you could exorcise this building from all? I said, yeah, we'll do a gigantic art show. So we wrote a thing in the New York Times that we were going to do an art show for 100,000 artists. And we were going to meaning modern art came to the United States through the Armory Show. And that's where the Museum of Modern Art is now on 50-something Street. And Billy Kluver did that. The same guy who did Automation House and got a Nobel Prize for being one of the guys who discovered background radiation in the universe. Anyway, so I went and talked to him. He was one of my mentors. I said, so this is what we want to do. How do we do it? So he kind of helped us. He was part of the Whitney, part of the Modern, part of everything. So we got it together and we had a show. We had 20,000 artists and we got the city to, from all of the bus stations, railroads, and, downtown in front of the city hall. We had city buses go from there on Saturday and Sunday all day long to go over to this place in Brooklyn, right next to Brooklyn Navy Yard. And we had this show. Again, go Google the Terminal Show. And it's 1984, 5, 6, somewhere around there. And there it is. So Google, collaborative artist projects. Google No Say No. Google the other thing we were involved with was Printed Matter with Lucy Lepard. And another thing, Art on the Beach. And that was the big landfill in front of the World Trade Center, right? They were going to build big condos and marinas and everything. And then the oil embargo of the 70s happened and we had a tremendous crash. And so for a good 20 years, they didn't build anything, but it was this big sandbar that they had dredged out and the stuff that they got from the basement of the World Trade Center in the bathtub, they stuck there. And it was almost a mile long and a third of a mile wide. And for about 20 years, it was there. And so we went to the city and said, hey, we want to do art there. And they said, fine. It's nice to do some of that. And that was Lucy Lepard, Art on Beach. And so we were this clearinghouse, collaborative art that still exists. And the museum, our art gallery is still there. And none of us some of us are still on the board, but most of us, it's like me. I haven't been in New York City since 1988. And but that is a great. This is what you can do, just by a few people. We had 9 people that started that, and we turned it into Soho Art Empire, right? And then what we did, all these kids who were coming out of college, having degrees in art and art history and art, administration, we just said, here, plug them in. Hang with them a little while, run this thing. And that's why it's still running now. And all the things we did are still running now. Now, I think like the kitchen and Franklin Furnace Knitting Factory, kind of, because it was all about those people who started. They were great people, really great stuff. They did it for how many years, but they got burnt out because they didn't have this umbrella and this mechanism that took people who wanted to do this and gave them the experience and gave them the expertise, and then let them do it. Let them write the grants. Let them run the shows. Let them, we didn't want to do it forever. We did it for, 6-7 years. But boy, did we have fun. So that's why I'm talking about the the Humanities Artist Trust International, because that covers the all, humanity. And the only thing that, we realized that any business, any politician, any judge, any of that kind of boardwalk of the hidden hand is corrupt beyond belief, right? The only people you can trust is the artist, and only the artist that is like, Brave New World artist, the guy who was the Savage, where they are, it takes some skill, wrestling, not as much mud as survival in the Big Apple. Yes. So so we have this big umbrella, just like a collaborative artist project called the Humanities Artist Trust, and international. So it's the whole world, all our relations, right? And underneath it, we have the Institute for Aesthetically Adept and Appropriate Technology. And I keep saying, we need to sit down and work out an alternative technology to transactionalism, commerce, and Greco, right? And avarice, greed, hate, war, all the above, right? We need, and that's what the Institute's going to be. And it's going to be like our Council for Foreign Relations, right? And so our Ford Foundation, our Rockefeller Foundation, but it will be ethical, right? And the Traveling Video Art Circus is going to be it's going to still be under that umbrella, but it'll have its own 501c3 because we're going to start out with that because that will get people's attention. And the Traveling Video Art Circus, right? Traveling meaning we're going to road trip, go to college to college to college, video, YouTube, on the internet. So everything we do will be put out there so the rest of the world can see it. So all these other colleges, wow, we want to have that in our school, sure. Traveling Video Art Circus. And circus is the key because if you go back all the way to the Egyptians, all the way to the Mesopotamians, the thing that was their foundation of that made their culture was the circus or the carnival. And, you look at, Shakespearean times, medieval times and all that. The only time that the poor proles had any kind of freedom or, was when they had a couple times a year a festival. And the minstrels would come by. Shakespeare would put up the Globe Theater. And the powers that be funded it because it gave that release valve for the masses. So they didn't go eat the hidden hand, So, and there's a few other little tidbits I want to throw in there, but that comes, can't give the whole show away. But that's kind of what I want to do this summer. Go to the Deep Green, see who shows up. That will be the committed crew. We will put together, like I said, a syllabus, an idea, a website, and go get at least 3 or 4 colleges to, have us at their facility. And I have a lot of these friends in the art world, the culture world, the scholarly world, who I've already talked to. And so I can't I'm too old, I'm too this. I said, no. What I want you to do is when we come to your neighborhood, you come as part of the party. You give the lecture about the book you wrote, the thing you got the Nobel Prize for, the thing you sold 100 copies for, the thing and that will give us a kind of representation of these schools in a scholarly sense and I can do that. I got that kind of connection. Yep. Bobby Melrose. Okay. So that's why I'm telling this tonight. I'm trying to excite you all because it's getting close in the next couple of weeks. One of you guys are going to come and grab me. And Jane, I'm all for it. I'm very squeezable. I'm more cuddly than DT over there. And we can hit the road and we can go visit all these people, right? And try to collect them and bring them back to the Deep Green and, have our little deep think and, put it together and go from there. And so all the component parts I'm juggling right now, they're all there. They're all accessible. All I need is that few people who want to, hey, let's do, like Mickey Rooney, come on, kids, let's do a play in the barn. It's I'm ready for it, And I've had the experience. I know the things to do, not to do, how to have a good time, how to get all the kids to play nice in the sandbox. And wouldn't it be nice to do something like this that you can, people remember? I mean, I left New York City in '88. I came back to New York City in 2011. because one of my goddaughters was going to get married. And she said, "You better be there or I'm coming to get you." Right. And she was the daughter of the cave girl, not mine, but I was like her godfather. Right. And anyway, so I showed up and I was walking down Avenue A, and the Lower East Side went from really a kind of, when we were there taking over abandoned buildings and putting homeless people in them using the Homestead Act of 1873, and my being a master electricity, putting electricity. So the guys in these abandoned buildings, when the marshal, you got to get out, they would have a valid electric bill, which was like the platinum card to staying there. I mean, and once you showed the marshal, hey, I got this electric bill, it showed that legally you were resident there and he can't throw you out. Sorry. And so that's how we got 500 families in 6 years into their own apartment that they owned, right? Anyway, so I'm walking down Avenue A, and people, I haven't been there since 1988, and everything's changed. It's like, Jimmy Choo shoe stores and Lottie bars, and everyone's hipster this, and they're smoking their goas and instead of their crack pipe, and it's like galleries everywhere, and it's like, and Mercedes and Jaguars and Rolls Royces everywhere. And this isn't the Lower East Side. I remember this ain't the Alphabet City I came from. Anyway, so I'm like walking down, and all of a sudden I start hearing, "Ow, Al's back, Al's back," and people, are hanging out there. "Ow, where have you been?" And it was 2011. Last time I was walking on that street was 1988, and I haven't been there back at all, right? And so I'm up and I'm looking around, and people are coming out and coming and hugging me, and everyone knows what I look like. That half these people were kids when I left, and anyway, so they're all, "Oh, you're back, you're gonna stay. Oh, we missed you so much." I still have connections pretty much everywhere like that. Good, buddy. You opened up a soup kitchen. That's my man for a while. But you had the experience, right? You did it once. You can do it again. You can do it on the road, right? Soup is the magic substance. I'm a soup guy from the, I'm a great chef, but soup's my specialty. And back in the day when Occupy was, and so I was part of Adbusters, and they were like the genetic backing, crux of what Occupy was, right? And so a friend of mine called me up. "Oh, we're doing it again, blah blah blah, and we're going to do this thing in Zuccotti Park. You got to be there." And I said, "Well, I don't think I can make it right off the bat." And so, because I was teaching, I was working, I was doing stuff. And I said, "I'll get there. If you guys, how many people you got there tonight?" He said, "Oh, about 6." I said, "Well, when you got, 500, I'll be there." Anyway, so what happened was, so they had that, and they had their meetings, and they were building their dynamic, right? And then, so they did an event, and the police, Mr. Giuliani's thugs overreacted, and they fire hosed, and there were a bunch of these old ladies and old folk who were there. They were old unionists and stuff like, but they were like in their 80s, 90s, and they fire hosed these old people with what's the spray, mace, but like nuclear mace, right? And 3 of those people had a heart attack, and one old lady died right there. And it was live on television. The TV guys were there, and they caught this in the fire, and they had it like on a fire hose. I mean, thousands of gallons of this, and if it touched you, you started to throw up. It got you in your eyes, you were gone. Got it in your sinuses, and these people just hosed in their mouth, in their nose, in their ears, and the TV guys got it, and they got maced and tear gas, and it was just a fog of tear gas, and it was a mess. Police did not have control, and it just went out. And one of those old ladies died and was on TV, and it was so horrific. Everyone in the media, "Oh, this is terrible." And so the police had to step way back. And that's when this crew went all in and put a lot and made a little town in Zacari Park. And that's when my friend called me up and said, "Oh, we got more than 500 now, baby. You got to come." So a couple of weeks later, showed up. I had a godson who worked for some hotel company. And there's a hotel right there, like right next to Trinity Church, across the street from the World Trade Center, or where the World Trade Center was. And I called him up, said, "Hey, I'm going to come visit you." He said, "Oh, really? I haven't seen you in a long time." And I said, "And I'd like a suite in your hotel there for a week or two." He said, "No problem," right? Because he's a corporate guy. It's no big deal. He just go, on the computer, puts me in there. I go there. Nice suite, big room, jacuzzi in the room, windows out onto the park, and a shower and bathroom, room service. Very nice, right? And so double king beds, really, with the foamy everything, just the best, right? And the little chocolates and they turned the thing down. And I went down there and I would stay there. And these people were sleeping on the ground and on the concrete. And I would say, "Come on, let's take 20 of you guys. You want a bath? You want to go in the jacuzzi? You want to take a shower? Want some, room service?" So I'd take 10, 20 people in, bring your sleeping bags. We'd go up there and we'd have 4 or 5 people in the nice beds. I would have my bed by myself. Thank you very much. And it'd be nice. A lot of food, everyone's in the jacuzzi. It was nice. And my godson did not, I'm sure he got a lot of, "Oh, what the heck? What's," but I had my little card. I had, I was, the concierge guys, the guy at the desk, the manager, elevator guys, the people in the lobby. I every day slipped everyone $10. I was working good. I had a lot of money in my pocket. They didn't care. Now the guests, on the other hand, who were like, "Ooh, I'm here, and those people smell." That girl had hair under her armpits. So I spent about 3 weeks at Zacari Park that way, and that was really great. And the dynamic of that could have been used to truly make a third party. And the guys and gals in Zacari Park wanted to do that. But the CIA and the NSA and all the rest of those alphabet clones, the hidden hand and the powers that shouldn't be in the sock puppets, basically said, "Oh, good. We're going to take this and we are going to put agent provocateurs around the country to do, occupy in LA and occupy in San Francisco and occupy here and have riots." Now, Zacari Park never had any riots, and it was turned into a little city. It was amazing. They had restaurants and doctors and libraries, and it was truly amazing. Lots of fun. But the rest, not so much. So when I came back to Roanoke, I said, "Oh, we got to do this here," because Roanoke is a microcosm of the United States. It's not a southern town. And so I'm thinking about it. And one day I'm driving and Roanoke City is very interesting because it has these little hamlets, Brandon and Melrose and about 4 or 5 others. And the powers that be here, the, city council and the chamber of commerce, it's like destroyed whatever kind of cohesiveness was here. And now it's just like The Walking Dead. But so I've been thinking about them, and I know everybody here, and I have all the groups that are like the activists. I call them the usual suspects. They have the same kind of, "Oh, we're going to start a new Democratic Party, blah blah blah," and all they do is have meetings and don't do anything. So there were a couple of people who were pretty active, and they said, "Oh, what this Zacari Park? It's occupied. We're going to do that." And they had gone up to New York, had gotten the fever, came back, and they were doing this. So I'm driving down this road into Grandin, and there's this Unitarian church, and I see cars parked everywhere, all in the parking lot, all the streets around it. And this church never has anybody in it. And so I go, something's going. So I just kind of pull in, and the Universe right in front of their front frigging door there's a parking spot for my car. And this is when I was just coming back to life, but I had the clamps on my leg and I canes. And so I hobble in here, and it's the meeting of the organizing group of for Occupy, and they got a banner Occupy, and I'm looking around and I seeing the usual suspects. People, yeah. So I just kind of hobble over, and there's a place where someone brings me a chair to sit, because most people are standing and they're in a circle, and my friend Sweet Polly, who's an amazing organizer, and she's like me. She secretly gets everyone to do what she wants to do, and she's not ever, in the spotlight. So we're co-creators, she and I. And if any of you guys come and visit, I'm going to take you all around. There are a lot of great people who are doing great things, and I'm going to take you to all of them to give you inspiration about. And there are a lot of them who are on the Dreamy Dreamland channel, where I kind of walk in, like the Hope Center and a few other really great places. So anyway, I'm there, and I walk up, and there's one of the usual suspects who's a total, blah, 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 blah. Look at me, right? So he's going on, and we have the talking stick, the wireless microphone, which is the talking stick of the 21st century. And so he's like, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of just pull it out of his hand and hand it over to Polly. And she goes, and we're going to move to the left. We're going to pass the talking stick, and everyone gets, 2 minutes to say whatever you want. We're going to go around the circle, right? And then we're going to go around the circle again and build a consensus of what we want to talk about. And then we're going to go around again, and we will break into working groups, which will go off and do that. And then we'll come back, and there will be a report, and then we'll go around twice, and then we will consent on what we're going to do. Now, this isn't what the talking head usual suspect, well, I wasn't done. And I say, hey, listen, buddy, you were done a long time ago. Just, let it happen. So it does, and it organically happens. And Occupy in Roanoke, Virginia, gets organized in that Unitarian church in 4 hours. Whereas if this moron did it, we'd still be having meetings about it now, right? So we do that, and we go around everyone, right? And people say stuff, and then we go around again and say, and Paul says, so what do we need? Let's talk about what we need, what kind of working groups. So we will talk about, so we get, the physical plant, right? The people who take care of where we're going, right? Site, finding, media, outreach, security, banking was basically it. And then liaison, and there were two other people, Polly, me. We took each of the 4 directions, and Mark Powell, who started the Roanoke Garden thing, and he built like 9 gardens all over the city to feed the people, and it worked really great. But when he said, okay, you guys have to do it now, I showed you how, we got it all, we got the grants, we got to this, we got to that, I want to go do something else. And when he left being the big daddy, it just fell apart. And that's kind of what happens to Roanoke. So anyway, he was on one side, this guy named Mo. What's Mo's? It's an African name. It's an African guy. And Polly and me. And we held shamanically the 4 directions. And as it went around, if somebody wasn't like putting in that quintessential thing we needed and no one was bringing it up, one of us in the circle would. So we did that. We broke up into working groups, and we kind of 4 of us were like little honeybees, and we went to the working groups, and we would listen. And when it would like go this, we'd say, what about that? And we'd kind of go that. Who's going to be the facilitator of this? Who's going to be the vibes watch? Who's going to be the person in the scribe writing it down? Who's going to? And I would tell them the process of the longhouse. So, and the other 3 knew that too. We were all coming from the same shamanic place. Polly and I definitely. and Mark and Mo. Mo definitely too, and Mark kind of he had it in him, but he came from a more organizer kind of guy. Anyway, so like in 5 hours, we did it was all done, and so we're doing the report, and everyone's like amazed that this has gotten done, and we're going to do it. We push them, so we're going to do it. There's the banking people, and we passed the hat, and we of that 200 people there, we raised about $2,000. Just that one thing. That was more than enough. The banking guys took that money, used their own, Social Security number, opened up a 501c3 banking account for banking. And the people on the banking were people who were bankers, who were in that ilk where they could get money. And so we had, before we had our next meeting where the big group, all these working groups had meetings, but 2 weeks later, the church came, that was one of the things I said. So every time we have a meeting, we have to have a consensus of where we're going, what we're going to do. B, most important, the time, date, and place of our next meeting. And so the minister of that place said, here, we can have all our group meetings right here, and he said, let's do it, the second Saturday of each month, right? We will have this kind of organizational meeting. And it was just the organizational group of Occupy, not Occupy itself, because that will be the occupiers, right? So we went around a couple of times more about how we felt and da-da-da. And we're coming around the last time, and I'm at the beginning of that circle. And I said, listen, there's one thing we haven't talked about. Oh, what's that? And I said, we have to go to the police and tell them what we're going to do. Oh, we can't do that. They'll make us get a permit. We can't get blah, 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 blah. And I said, no. We have to tell them what we're going to do. And not only do we got to tell them what we're going to do, we're going to have them tell us how they want us to do it. Oh, what? I said, no, you don't understand. If we just go up and do it, they're going to come here with riot police and shoot everyone. But if we go to them and say, hey, listen, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it on this date and this is how we're going to do it. But you as the police, the authority, we want you to tell us what we need to know to do it so you're happy about it, right? Can't tell us whether we can do it or not. That's called the First Amendment. But we're asking you to be part of this, to be part of Occupy, and tell us what we need to know to fit into the bureaucratic legal structure of us doing this, right? So I said that the next 15 people said, oh, we can't do that. And then it came to Mo, and Mo said, no. And he tells a story about him being, back in the day, and he was quite the amazing organizer back in the day with Martin Luther King. He was of that ilk. And he said, no, this, every time we did something that truly succeeded, we tried to involve the city government and everyone. And no matter how they complained, we'd say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do, but we want to do it within your parameters, so you're happy. And that's why that movement actually worked. That's why they did that gigantic thing in Washington, D.C. on the mall. And I have a dream, because they got the government and the police and the park guys and everybody to go along with saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have almost 500,000 people show up. So you tell us how you want that done, or they're just going to show up and we'll see how you guys handle that. Right? So Mo says it again, hey, this is what we got to do. And people go, and the next 15 or 20 people say, I don't know. And then Mark said the same thing. Then Polly said, and I said, so the four of us will go to the cops. And Polly had to do something. Mark knew the police because he was doing this gardening thing. And so did Mo. And I did too, but Mark really knew these guys. And so he got a little thing with the chief and the colonel and the 2 majors and the 6 captains and the 12 sergeants, the guys who kind of ran the police department, plus the sheriff's department, plus Roanoke has like 9 police departments. Anyway, so they had all these guys at the Roanoke Police Department conference room. We came in, and they were waiting for us. We came in. We were right on time. We were neatly dressed. Mark knew them, so he kind of introduced everybody. And then I said, "Hi, I'm Al." And this is what, we're going to do this, but we want you to tell us how you want us to do it. And the chief of police actually had a little tear. And I said this thing, we want you to be part of it. You are part of Occupy. We're not occupying your city. This is our city, right? And so these guys nearly fell over, and they went out of their way to, so we started up not the chief, but the third in command, a colonel, a major, 2 captains, 4 sergeants. And they were on the working group to work out the protocols and all that. And the first time we were there, it was the chief and, well, it was all those guys. And it wasn't the rest of them, but it was that 6 or so. And so he goes, okay, and we wrote like when we went to that meeting, we had a whole kind of, mission statement, vision statement, kind of what we wanted to do. How do you want us to do it? And this is the kind of place we want to do it. And it was this park right downtown where the 2 main streets and the big highway, 581, right on the corner of that park. So pretty much every time we'd be on that corner, we'd have at least 1,000 people see us every hour, right? So the guy goes, so you want to be here 24/7 for the next 9 years, and you want to camp out there? And we go, he goes, well, we'll do it. We can, because of this, that law, and this rule, and blah, blah, blah. You can camp there. You can do this. And I said, no, you got to realize that this isn't a bunch of college guys. This is basically men and women who have children and businesses and families who are really committed, but they don't have the time to do that. What we're going to do is be there 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday. We're going to get there, sunrise and leave sunset, right? And the cops said, really? And they go, and you don't want to camp? We set aside a campsite for you. We said, we don't, these people have houses here. They're bourgeois. They don't, they want to take a shower. They want to, and the police said, so we just worked it out, and they showed us, and I said, the biggest concern the group has is we don't want to sign a permit. And the chief goes, well, that's not a problem. He goes, how many people do you expect to have your opening thing? I said somewhere between 10 and 3,000. He goes, okay, not a problem. He goes, you need to get a permit if you have more than 100 people in one place. Now, let's say you have 3,000. What you do legally is, a park is a place where a lot of people come together, put down their picnic things and have things. Well, we don't make them get permits. So if you have like 89 people in and he used the right term, what do you call it? There's a activism kind of thing of where you work in groups, right? An affinity group, right? And you have, let's say, you have 3,000 people, so you have 90 people in an affinity group. So that means you're going to have 100 into 3,000 is 30 groups, right? Or 300 groups. Well, anyway, you have that many affinity groups, and just make sure that they're 10 feet away from each other, and then they're separate entities. No problem. No permit. And the cops did stuff like that. They knew the law. And they said, oh, you can have as big a sign as you want, but you can't have sticks, right? They could be weapons. So, and you can totally cover the city, but you got to stay on the sidewalk, right? Don't go in this. You can't march in the street. That you would need a permit for. You don't want a permit, stay on the sidewalk, right? And so they actually organized our event for us and how we were going to run it for the rest of the year that we had it there, right? And so the when there are events downtown, they have the porta potties there, and the chief of police, his cousin or brother or somebody, had that big business for those events. So he gave me that phone number and said, I'll talk to him on the down low. You talk to him, and he will donate as many porta potties as you need. And we go, wow, that's pretty cool. And by this time, as we're organizing all of this, we probably have 20 grand in the piggy bank, right? And so I go see the porta potty guy, And he goes, well, how many you need? And I said, I don't know, maybe 5. How long are you going to need them for? I said, I don't know, maybe a year. And I said, maybe we're going to, the first day when we might have a lot of people, we might need, 5 over here, 5 over here, 5 over here. But once we do it, we're going to stay in that corner of the park from that point on. And that's where we're going to have our speakers and blah, blah, blah. Because there was this monument called the Mayor's Monument that had these big steps that made a great place where mayors would give speeches, and a big open space, and then had a big meadow facing it. Great place. And then there was this big paddock, with bricks that we could set up our booths at. So I said, and over by those trees, we could have 4 Porta Johns there all the time. And he goes, so you're going to lock them up? I said, no, because the homeless people sleep in that park. And they have no access to toilets. What I want to do is leave those toilets open 24/7. So anybody can go use that, right? And, the banking guy's there and make a check for $1,000. And this guy was going to donate all that stuff. But we were going to need those 4 or so Porta Johns there for a year and looked after. They had to be sucked out, hosed down, more toilet paper put in, at least a couple times a week. If that many homeless people, because there were a lot of homeless people in Roanoke. And the guy goes, and I say, do you think that will cover it for a year? Just your, and the guy goes, yeah, that'll work. I said, if you need anything more, we got some money in the piggy bank, not a problem. So we were relatively well funded. And the other thing we did was we bought a big tent and put it there. And we had, our booths underneath that big tent. And one of the booths we did was we had a kitchen. And we had propane burners, and we made soup and sandwiches. And anybody wanted, and they had to come with their own cup. That was, like we had rules of how to do this. Because we didn't want to have thousands of styrofoam cups and things. We'd clean those pots, we'd clean our tools, but they had to bring their own cup, very, rainbow-esque, right? And we'd put the food in anything, their hands, whatever, we didn't care. And we had sandwiches that we did have in baggies, right? And we asked that people would keep those baggies, and when they wanted a sandwich, we would slide their sandwiches in, peanut butter and jelly, ham and cheese. And we had food and toilets there the 2 days that we were there, and 3 or 4 other times. And as it got colder, forgot which, it was like Dick's or somebody like that. They got a hold of us and said, we have a lot of gloves, hats, scarves, and coats, socks, and boots that our factory, it's like, unsellable, but it's still good and still keep people warm and still, it'll be fine. You want those? And we said, yeah. And this, once, December and February and January, we got maybe a truckload a week. And under our tent, they'd have these big cardboard boxes of coats and hats and boots and socks. And it was the free box. We said sign over it, free box. And these homeless people came and would get, coats. They never had a coat like that. And the entities that's supposed to take care of the homeless never fed them, never gave them a coat or a hat or anything. Like the mission, you couldn't get a bologna sandwich there unless you went and pledged your oath to Jesus, right? And then HAT, which is Homeless Action Team, and 4 others that were supposed to, they did nothing. They wrote grants and gave money to themselves and did nothing for the homeless. So we were doing, and they were like, whoa, why are they doing, that's terrible. They're, we're helping the homeless people, and they're going, it's terrible, that's our job, we should be doing that. And so I remember, and the lady who ran the Salvation Army. She was great. They had a big truck, and she would could knock out meals, and when she could, would put that there, and we would have a real kitchen knocking shit out just instead of just pots. Anyway, so we did that for a year. And what was sad about it, the first, we started in spring, so spring, summer, fall. By about October, when it started to get cold, the folks died. Not died, but the crowds weren't there anymore. And what the real thing, Occupy had this thing called the Congress, where they'd have people talking about stuff, and consensus was made. And there was this core group that ran everything, about 8 people. But this Congress where the consensus was supposed to come, which what we did in that church, could never be mustered because there were 4 people who weren't at that meeting at that church. That we organized this whole thing in 4 hours. And they were what are known as Stalinist obstructionists. They get up there and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about, the Stalinist this and the, Trotsky that. And people got so bored they left because no one ever got a chance to talk except these yodel heads, And I knew them, and I would take them up to, you really want to do this? You really want to fuck things up? Who's paying you? You're a provocateur, and this ain't gonna, if you keep doing this, everyone in this community are gonna hate your guts. Now they already think you smell and are stupid and boring. But if you do this, A, karmically it's not be good for you. B, right. So anyway, we ran it for a year, and the thing that I was most focused on was to feed the homeless and give them coats and hats, and because the movement part, the first 4 months was great. We had lots, hundreds of people on that corner, or 1,000 people, and basically 99.9% of the folks who drove by beeped their horn and waved and said, yay, good, keep it up. Maybe 0.5% get a job, hippies. And nobody was a hippie. They were all people who had businesses and worked and had, crew cuts and khaki pants. There's students, yes, but they weren't even hippies. I mean, that was an oxymoron of this group because they were so bourgeois. It was ridiculous. But it was that pebble, and it did many, didn't do what it could have done, just as the Occupy movement could have been truly an amazing thing. Meaning, if all those places all across the country had been like Zuccotti Park, it would have changed. I mean, it did change America on a almost granular genetic level. But if it had done what it could have done, it would have been amazing. But it wasn't time. Energetically, I was still the Piscean age. Things hadn't really quite changed. And they sent provocateurs into every city, and, they'd see on TV riots and stuff. Oh, that's Occupy, all those riots. Well, we didn't have any riots. Everyone got bored to death and left. But those college kids did get a taste of organizing, because the first 3 months, it was exciting. It was electric. People were just amazed, and they were a community, just like the chorus here. It was the same kind of thing, right? And it was that handful of Stalinist obstructionists that took it down. So from this little story that took 1 hour and 43 minutes, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I want to do. And we have 18-month window to do this. And it is the time. The powers, DT over here, he understands that this needs to happen. And the powers that shouldn't be in the hidden hand, they are, if it's done correctly, done in a way that, okay, if we let these guys rebrand it and add things that are new, haven't been around, we may be able to extend this thing. And if we can do that, instead of having nuclear war, environmental holocaust, and the human race being cold by 3/4 and thrown into the dark ages for another 900 years, what we will have is a slow upward thing to something like Star Trek. And that's what Gene Roddenberry made. That he was one of the guys who hung out at JPL, and they saw this coming, and they saw that the technology was already there, but the politics and economics hadn't. That's why he did that show, and he enthralled the people who put that on NBC was Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Desilu produced Star Trek. If it wasn't for Lucille Ball, we wouldn't have Star Trek. Without Star Trek, we wouldn't have the kind of vision of the future. So here's to Lucille Ball, Gene Roddenberry, and people of that ilk. So we are those people of that ilk, so say we all. Yep, rock and rolls. Exactly, buddy. So that's the idea. That's what I'm looking for. I'm ready for any jump in anybody's car to get me the heck up out of this place. I mean, I love John. I love the school. The Hill is my, amazing place. I've spent 20 years here, give or take, but I can't do any more. You saw that. Go look at the video of a day or two ago where I drove down the driveway and I showed all the roots in the ground and how the trees are dying and how this hill is dying and this whole neck of the woods is dying. Again, it's the microcosm of America, and what is on the forecast is right here and now. And that's why I was here for so long, because it was a great place for me, a shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic alchemist. I didn't have to travel all over America to see the trends. They're all right here, all of them together. So, but I'm ready to go. I've done my research. I've done and again, when I go to a place and I kind of go into it, I do everything I can do. So when I leave, I go, oh, I wish I did that. No, I've done it all. I'm ready to go. I've done it all, right? And I still have my connects here. I will come as I am here. I don't live here at the school. I am a guest. John is my friend. I'm not going to give up on him. I'm not going to throw him under the bus. I'll always be there, but I'm not going to facilitate. I'm not going to enable this thing that he does time after time after time after time. I call it the laundry list. And again, it was wise and fortuitous for me to spend the time I had with John, because it enabled me to write a great deal about the laundry list and the canary in the coal mine syndrome. And like I said, he's my friend. He will not stop being my friend. I am not going to give up on him or badmouth him or throw him under the bus. But I don't have to stay here and enable the same laundry list going on. He needs to step up like we all do. And I will come back, because my medical, the serious things, my operations I get here on a 90-day basis, I wired myself in. I have the quality people to do what I do. I mean, other places I have healthcare too, like out in the deep green, but I'm 40 miles to the closest doctor. But I have doctors, in those two college towns. I've gotten myself into their systems. And so if anything goes wrong, I can get there and they'll take care of me, but not on the level that the folks here can. So I come here and I have my eyes operated. I have my podiatrist. I have my endocrinologist, every 40 to 90 days. Just like now, I've finished a soup to nuts and I'm in great shape. So I'm ready to take off and do anything. I have no operations that I need to have done until the end of May, June. So, I got a good month and a half or so, to start the ball rolling, getting it, set up. And then I'll come back for a week or so and go through the process, and I'll be here with John Boy, and, he can talk to me and I can talk to him and help him out and see what I can do for him. But he has to be able to do it. We all have to do it ourselves. Now, we can be a community, we can assist, we can be the cadre, we can be the chorus, we can be the shock troops of love's co-creation. But first and foremost, we have to be that little pebble ourselves and thrown in the pond. We have to realize we are that grain of sand that makes all of our relations. But if we think we're the only, it's all about me, me. I'm the best of this. Da, 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 I can do that. I can do it. Get out of my, you don't, oh, you're making me, oh, it's all about me. No, that's not going to work, because that is the hidden hands tool of distraction. That's what a good portion of the human race has been stuck in. And it's not John's fault. He has been programmed to be this. It doesn't have to be that way. He can walk it back. But he's a Libra, so that's wing, 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 wing. On your other signs, you're a little more either air or earth or water, but it's a little more stable. Libra is the most, throws them, and they're their own worst enemy. They get in their own way. Now, if you are keeping aware of who and what you are, and you're 360, then you can navigate through this, and learn and ascend your conscious into your free will, right? And be part of love's permanent awareness, awake presence of love's co-creation. So let's see what you guys are saying. Jane, organizing. Document with flashbacks and flash forwards with mandala. Yep. We need that, Jane. I mean, we need every kind of art and documenter there is. Nice to see you there, Twitch. Have a nice dream time. Twitch, you go to bed? It's true. You squish. Enjoy hearing stories of kick-ass women. Yes, Master takes some skill. The wrestling, not as much mud. Yep. So say we all. Yep. Aikido. Can we be ourselves or in character? Of course we can be ourselves. That's what life's about. Being yourself, being your own character. We don't have to, look at, the chorus is a great template. Everyone is themselves here. We are this. What I love about the chorus, we are not a tribe. Sorry, we're not like, all one thing. Everyone here is, you couldn't get any more, beyond individual. But we all care about each other, and we are all listening to each other. We don't want to talk over each other. We want to sing. Yeah, me too. The gypsies are my peeps. I got a lot of gypsy stories. And that's, guys, when you come to the deep green, when we go on the road, we're always every night going to be sitting around the fire, playing music, telling stories, eating well, having a grand old time. And then during the day, we will go out to the people and serve and facilitate a alternative aesthetic, right? Let's see. Let's win the lotto. Well, that is my retirement plan. I have $2 a week. That's my disposable money, and I buy a lotto ticket. And I'm going to win. I win $2 here, $4 there, but one day, and there we go. And if we all put our collective conscious on winning the lotto, and whoever, and we all put in $2 or whatever it is that in your neighborhood the lotto is, and one of us wins, that's where you come. You come straight here. You get a ticket for everyone. Get everyone who wants to come anyway. And we hit the road with a nice piggy bank. But we can do this, just us, just 4 people. We can do this because we can. Like a game. Yep. Wow. Giving character description, we use people's needs to gain full leverage. Need a gimmick. Well, my gimmick. Hey, let me see your palm. There are loads of gimmicks. I'm Mr. Gimmick. Again, we had to come together, sit around the fire, build ourselves a sweat, and work it out. Now we can work it out on this platform, but only up to a certain, because energetically we really kind of, and it doesn't take a lot. 3, 4 people, 2 people can do this, right? And it just takes that commitment. And because so you got a job at Walmart's or at the supermarket or whatever, or even if you have a more, as my mom would say, responsible job, you say, well, this is more important, so I'll take a hiatus. I can always come back and do whatever I'm doing, right? And you can, boo boo, boo boo boo. I managed to open it. Yep. Soup, the best. Did you get my email? You on Potato Wolf? Oh. Bill, when did you send that? How long ago? Because I got a lot of Gmails, and unless I'm really on top of it, and I've had in the last 2 weeks issues with my phone, anyway. So give me a heads up, Bill. Either send it again, like in the next day or two, or tell me, hey, I sent it, last Thursday, and I'll go look. So I really appreciate that, Bill. Yep. And we have to work out, all of you who are truly adept at the digital platform. We need to have a digital platform crew to build. I basically, YouTube sucks so bad, but and it's the only show in town. If those morons can build YouTube back in the day when they built it, and I'm sure it was just a bunch of, jackoffs in their mom's garage, so can we. We're as good at jackoff as any of those jackoffs. So, okay, sweetheart. Love you, Twitchy. My prayers are with you. I'll come try and visit you in dream time. I have a school early tomorrow, so I gotta go to bed. What time is it? It's 11:21. Holy moly. I really can get carried away. Pose the question of the day and solve the riddle. So, Jane, what's the question of the day? And those are like other. We need to have a basket instead of a basket of deplorables, a basket of hooks. Theme. Yep. Paradox. Ball bust. Yep. Smart idea. Getting expert knowledge prior to your Occupy activism. Yeah. It's the way to go. I like I said, one of my little skill sets is strategy and organizing. Been doing a lot. Had great teachers. I've been doing this 50 freaking years. The only way I could keep up doing it over and over is I have a good time doing it. And I make everyone in my surroundings have a good time and have fun and love who they are and their cadre, right? Agro Guthrie came here a couple of years ago. Yeah, I knew him pretty good. He was, when his dad was still alive and he was a younger guy, he was much more fun. But you're right, too much booze and success can get to you, But he's, his heart, again, the secret to success is never give up and never give in. Doctor, do no harm. Do not get involved unless you have to protect the innocent and get them out of harm's way. And don't get involved unless you're going to learn something in a positive sense. And that's exactly what Arlo did in his whole, once he got famous, once he did the movie, it's like, mine, don't know, I can't. I used to live in Woodstock and got to see a lot of that. Yeah. I mean, I was involved in the No Nukes scene and the Stop Shoreham campaign and about 5 mega gigantic things where, Bono came and all of that kind of crap. And I was the guy who built the stage, made the electricity work, and moved, 1,000 porta johns by myself. And I had my crew. And I did that for a 4-year period. And basically, I saw that, we did this one gigantic concert at, Art on the Beach, where we had 500,000 people there. And we did another gigantic rally in Washington, D.C. in the at the mall, and we had 500,000 people there, and that was so amazingly organized. We got the whole police department, we got the the Forest Service and the MTA, and the day of that thing, we had all the buses and cars parked like in the big gigantic parking lots at the end of all the different lines, depending on which direction you were coming, and we got people, instead of driving their cars and buses into DC. They made the trains free for 2 days, that Saturday and Sunday of that big rally. And it went off like clockwork. It was, we moved 500,000 people in and 500,000 people out in both those things, in New York and DC. And one of the things, so I was like the staging guy and the light guy and the power guy and putting up the, and catering the tent in the back for all the notorieties. But the main thing I really did, what I really was passionate about, was because I just got my friends in that biz saying, come on, let's do this. And, I kind of facilitated, but they did it. But I moved a lot of porta johns in both of those things, but because I'm good at a forklift. And the thing I was most passionate about was this group of people. We were the not just the strategy committee, we were the outreach committee. We were, and when we talked about outreach, we outreach to the Republicans, the Democrats, the conservatives, the liberals, the environmentalists, the business. We outreach to everybody equally, and didn't say, "Oh, you're the problem." No, we said, "Let's make everyone the fix." We're going to do the Hegelian process. Find the problem, say, here's what we're going to do, and get the outcome we want. And we get a consensus, whatever, all those different people, that problem. Anyway, so that's what we did. And one of the things in that kind of, what would you call that? Wasn't a belief structure, wasn't an ideology. It's close to a process. What we did was we made a folder that had about 50 pages in it. And on that, both sides of that page had everything you needed. In Rainbow Gathering, there's a thing called a Rainbow 411, which is on one piece of paper. It tells you everything you need to know how to survive, be comfortable, and have fun at a Rainbow Gathering. I mean, what the water to drink, what the food, toilet paper, all of that, everything you kind of physically need, how to camp, where to camp, how to drum, what to do, where to see, blah, 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 and the philosophy and the mission, all that, right? So we had folders that we printed up, about 50 pages on both sides, on how to organize your neighborhood, how to, if one person in a group that came from X, Y, or Z little town or neighborhood took that and then got 5 of their friends to come together as a cadre and organize using this packet to, as their template on how to organize, we could change the world. That was my thing. I printed 100,000 of these packets, right? And 50,000 went to DC and 50,000 went to New York City. And we had big things with people that talk the talk, and we'd have people like Michio Kaku and the stars of the scene, Helen Caldicott, not in the green room in the back, but talking to the people about this, right? When we had these 2 gigantic rallies. 500,000 people had each. Of those 100,000 packets, only 200 were taken. Oh, I don't know. Just take it. Just take it home. Read it. Oh, I'm busy. Then why'd you come to? Well, I wanted to do something. No, they wanted to hear Bono. They wanted to hear, all the rock and roll. They wanted to come to a free rock and roll concert, and their liberal guilt, they went there. So I did something about nuclear war, and so that's when I gave up on large rallies. They did nothing. I mean, I statistically said, okay, we're going to print out 500, 100,000, 50 at each. If those go out and we find 100,000 people from a million who feel passionate enough, they feel passionate enough to come to this thing, they're going to be passionate enough to try to organize in their neighborhood. Only 200 were taken. And that's when I said, I give up. That's it. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to focus on stopping the Shoreham nuclear power plant because that's something I can do, and I'm going to let Love's co-creation, take care of this. And if Love needs me, hey, I'm there. But to fool around with these chuckleheads and have meetings, and it was like herding cats. And so I went off and did the Shoreham power plant. And that No Nukes group started an NGO. And they kind of followed my little thread of the NGO I did maybe 15 years earlier. Well, not that earlier, maybe 8 years earlier, of the Alternative Technology NGO. So they went in there. Anyway, and we used to be in the basement of, Bishop or Cardinal Kaufman's Protestant thing up on the west side. I forget the name of that church. Beautiful church, great facility. That guy has a heart the size of the Atlantic Ocean. And he took his money, his thing. When El Salvador went down, this whole thing about what's going on with the people coming from Central and South America, it is all a blowback from what happened with Reagan, Bush, Contra wars, Iran-Contra, and the Iran-Contra is the blowback of the wars that we see in the Mideast that have killed millions of people and killed 1 million or so people in Central and South America. And if you include all the drugs that came in, all that cocaine and meth and all that crime, again, that's all the hidden hand. That's all, and that's their business plan. That's what they're doing. Coca-Cola sells Coke, a bad thing. McDonald's sells cheeseburgers. The hidden hand sells military, industrial, banking, scholastic, medical, religious complex, right? So, but if you don't give up, don't give in, always have a happy tune, you're unbeatable. It's really amazing because the Stop Shoreham campaign, I was at that for 5 years, and I did it because I was going to document, be there, be the minister of fun to show the strategy of not giving up, not giving in. And we stopped the nuclear power plant, Go back and look at, I've told that story a number of times. We just never gave up to the point where, Ronald Reagan robot just kept signing executive. We won things in the Supreme Court. We got the Nuclear Regulatory Commission on our side. We got the politics of Suffolk County, Long Island, which was totally Ronald Reagan. It was more Ronald Reagan than any of Donnie Trump's fan bases, and because Donnie Trump's fan base is basically lazy potato, couch potato. It's all image, no substance. They really aren't doing anything. So the bottom line is that we never gave up. We never stopped, and we weren't whiny bitches. We were always having fun, and people came to our place where we would give teach-ins and etc. because we had really good food, we had music, and maybe once in a while Billy Joel would show up and entertain us. That's how we every weekend we had a crowd of 300 to 1,000 all winter long, all spring, all summer, right in front of that plant. Never, And when we did civil disobedience, when we went over the gate, when we, got 100 clinkers and drove them onto the northern state, the Long Island Expressway and Southern State, and got in a line and slowed down and then stopped, and there all the cars behind us, or the cars coming this way behind them. We then got out of the car, and we had cans of kerosene and tires in the car, and we kind of soaked them up, set them on fire in this big black, that you could see for miles. And, the highway would be, a parking lot for a day back 50 miles, to the end of the highway, from the middle. And we would come to the middle of all those highways. So it'd be like 30, 40 miles this way, 30, 40 miles this way. Those were the major highways. And if there was a nuclear accident at that charm plant, that's what we're showing people. This is what it would be like. But instead of just kind of tires burning, it would be radioactive stuff that would kill you in a few days. And the people of Suffolk, Nassau County, Connecticut, within a 200-mile radius of that plant, got the message. And so whenever we did a civil, they would be there. We'd have 20 to 100,000 people on that little chunk of Shoreham, Long Island. And the Shoreham people were like, oh, they'd be out there too, because they knew they were on the front lines. And the cops wouldn't arrest us. And then they brought, Ronald Reagan brought in the Fed police, and he wrote an executive order where they painted an orange line. If you went over the fence and went a foot over, and there's this orange line, and these big signs saying, we have the legal right to shoot you in the head because you're a terrorist. And we had the Suffolk and Nassau County SWAT teams on their trucks with their things. You shoot the kids, we're going to shoot you. And so that's called organizing. Took us, the grandmas who started it before I showed up did it for 16 years. 11 of these old ladies kept Wilco and Chase Manhattan Bank and JP Morgan at bay. Then when they got a little, they started building the one plant rather than the 16 they wanted. Then they got hard case with those old ladies. That's when I kind of stumbled onto them and said, hey, I think you need some help. Let's think out a way to do this. And we did. Anyway, we won every skirmish, right? But we were losing the war because Ron Reagan just signed one executive order after the next. I mean, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission refused to give the plant a license. Ronald Reagan said, I'm writing this executive order. They don't need a license. They don't need a license to fuel. They don't need a license to start it up. Executive order. And then we blocked them from bringing in the nuclear fuel rods. And the U.S. Navy and the Army Corps of Engineers cordoned off a chunk of the Long Island Sound and built a bridge out into it so the ships could bring it and take it into the plant, the back door. And, everything we did to try and stop them, we won, but it didn't matter because it was unconstitutional. And that was my big thing. This is fascism, kids. Take a look at what your kids are going to be living in. And this is where we are now. So what happened was the Monday they were going to do a low power test where they test everything out and they then start they pull up the rods and start the neutrons flowing and get the sucker, cooking. And so we had like a dirge, lots of music, lots of food, lots of dancing, just having a great old time. And we were doing that Saturday and Sunday. And because they had already put the fuel in, all they had to do was push a button to start the sucker. But they were going to pretend to do the NRC regs, meaning test everything first, do the, backup power, this, that, and the other thing before they just hit the switch. So beautiful day, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. And we're getting baked and drunk and dancing, just having a merry old time, just like the good old church. And I'm sitting in a lazy boy recliner, and this Mary Boylan, who is a Maryknoll nun, and she was one of the nuns who went toe to toe with the Contras. I don't know if you guys remember, but this nunnery of Maryknolls almost stopped the war with the Contras because they would go in the middle of a firefight dressed as nuns and start doing this to guys with live machine guns shooting at each other, and they get in the middle. Stop doing that, right? And these guys are Catholic, so they would freak out and stop doing it, right? Don't shoot the kids, don't come into that, and they put themselves between the death squads and the village. So anyway, a good old Jimmy Carter told the CIA to go in and assassinate the nuns. And when it happened, and these guys were so incompetent that it came out that the CIA did it, he said, I didn't know anything, but pretty much you look at the paperwork, Jimmy was involved, Anyway, so Sister Kathy Boylan, she was a doctor, so she was off delivering a baby when this happened. And so all of her sisters got whacked, and they kind of spirited her out, and she started doing stuff like this in America. Anyway, so she was the best warrior you could ever, she'd go toe to toe and be loving to a guy who was, National Guard guy who was about to plant his butt of his gun in her, unprotected head. And she was kind of an old lady. She was like in her 60s, right? But she still smoked pot and drank with the best of them, good Irish girl, and danced up. And she, those girls didn't wear the monkey suit unless it served them. So she wore, street clothes, and she was like the other men. She would wear a turtleneck. Anyway, and so she was, at 60, she was still an attractive woman. And so she showed me pictures of her in her younger days. And she was a firebrand, that girl. So anyway, so we're both like rocking in the lazy boy cloud. It's a beautiful day. We're looking out over the Long Island Sound towards Connecticut. And I am baked. I'm I'm like, wow, yeah, look at the colors. Ooh. Mary, is that a unicorn over there? I was, I had a few edibles. I was like totally toast. And so was she. And she was, look at that. And I go, look at what? What? Over there. I said, which way? Right over there. What am I looking at? It's a black dot. And I go, where? And it was like over Connecticut. It was a little black dot. But it was rushing towards us at like supersonic speed. And she goes, is that a cloud? And I go, well, I've never seen a cloud move that fast, not even in a hurricane. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's like, 50 miles away from us. And it's pretty big, maybe, a third of a quarter mile in circumference. And it's flying right straight at us. And now the plant is, we're here, 25A's here, Tesla Boulevard's here. We're on the corner. The plant is here, and the Long Island Sound is there. And it's like rushing straight at us. And we're a good half mile, quarter mile from the gate is maybe a couple hundred yards from us. And then from the gate to the plant is quarter mile, give or take. Anyway, so this thing is rushing right to it. It's still a beautiful sunny day. The sun is out. No one's noticing this. Everyone's playing music and dancing. But Kathy and I are in our lazy boys, still puffing on our spliffs, chewing on our brownies. And I have a chicken leg in my hand. And it's coming straight at us. And I mean, it is moving fast. And it stops on a dime, like right above the plant. And it's a black cloud. And then rain starts falling just on the frigging plant. And then lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. And then it's and really loud. And it's only a quarter mile away. And it's hitting this plant with like 40, 50 lightning bolts. More than that, probably 100 lightning bolts a minute. Just, I mean, something you do not see often. It was like a machine gun, but big lightning bolts hitting the plant. Boom, 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 boom. And that, by this time the music stops. Everyone turns around and they're all facing the plant on, because everyone's kind of baked and go, whoa, what is that? And it's this big black cloud. You can't see through it, but all around us, where we are, it is sunny. It is not raining out. It is torrential on them and getting hit by lightning. Boom, 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 boom. And then hail, and all of the cars working at the plant. There were a lot of guys trying to finish up. All of their windshields and all the glass broke. All the glass in the office building broke from the hail. And it was like, and the whole thing around there looked like it was like that much of hail. It was like snow. And it's in the middle of, August, and hot. And it's like, whoa. And then, it was so loud, it got to a point you couldn't hear anything except ringing in your ears. And then all of a sudden, the lightning stopped, the hail stopped, the rain subsided, and the cloud just dissipated. We were like, what the frick was that? And we were like, and we were going to stay there. We had our tents and our little campsites there. And so we were going to stay there. And that kind of broke the crazed dirge celebration, because we had no fucking idea what that was. And so anyway, so we're just like, huh? And we kind of, decide, okay, the wild ruckus dancing music, we're going to stop. We're just going to drum. We're going to do ceremony. That's what we're going to do. Okay. It took us like 3 hours to close our mouth and say, okay, what do we do now? And we had some indigenous folks say, I think the best thing to do, I was having a good time, but we should kind of sit around. Let's start some fires and sit around the fires and play drums, in a ceremonial, shamanic way, and pray for this plant not opening. That what we just saw was an answer to our prayers of the last 5 years. So we do that. We do that for a good amount of time. It gets really dark 30s, probably about 11 p.m. And we all just kind of stop drumming and slowly go in our tents and go to sleep. And so the next morning, we get up, we have breakfast, at sunrise, and we kind of pray some more. And then what we were going to do is circle the plant as best as we could. We couldn't do it by the ocean because they had guys with guns, and we weren't going to really push that. It was just the few hundred of us, and we were just going to circle it and pray, right? So we're there, and the test was going to start at 10 and move through it to the point where at about 2 they would hit the switch and starts a chain reaction. But they had to go through a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the first things they had to do is to bring the plant online electrically, meaning from power from the grid to run the pumps and the this and to check all that shit out, whether the switch did that and da-da-da-da. And whether all of this stuff kind of worked, right? And they had already kind of tested that out for months. But and they're just going through the paces of this is what the licensing procedure calls for. So they were doing that. And in most reactors, there's the grid, there's the reactor making the power going onto the grid, and then there's the backup power. And if there is something wrong with the grid and there's a backdraft of current, or something happens with the reactor and they have what is known as a scram. And a scram is, what do you think? You scram, right? So it's producing electricity at 100%, and then for some reason a pump or this or something goes out, and they have to shut the plant down. They have to scram it. So they have to take it offline, which means they have to shut down a good chunk of the grid that's being fed by this, which will knock out somewhere between, 5,000 to 500,000 people's electricity, depending on what happens. So they have to practice that, the scram. And in that process, they have to bring the backup power online to keep all those pumps and everything working so the sucker doesn't melt down while they bring it to a shutdown, right? And still they have to, I mean, look at Fukushima. It's not working, but they still have to, they got all the zillion gallons of water because they still need to cool that core and all that shit that's in there. It's still making neutrons. So they do that, they do all that kind of, first testing, make sure this switch does that, da da da. Then they kind of do a simulation of a scram, and they do that, and there is a rumbling in the ground, and then like the sirens that mean you better get out of town. And that was part of the thing. They had these things every quarter mile for a 10-mile radius around the plant. They start going off, and they are speakers, so not only is woo 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 sound, they can also give instructions, hey, take such and such a highway, or this ain't so bad, stay in your house, da da da. And they have it recorded, this like robot voice says it. And the robot voice, after woo woo for about 5 minutes, goes, this is Loco Central Control of the Shoreham Power Plant. There is an anomaly in the plant's test procedure, and we are trying to come to a cold shutdown. And then it went, woo, woo, and then it repeated that again. And it kept going like that. And then all of a sudden, there was a tremendous friggin' explosion. And it was like out of a movie, flames to the sky. And what happened was in that process of scramming, trying to bring the reactor to a shut. And it wasn't, the reactor wasn't even producing neutrons. They hadn't cracked it yet. And so, but everything was just fucking up to the point of the computer that was supposed to be running it like really good, went nuts and tried to, it thought, that it was having a meltdown. So it was doing all kinds of stuff it shouldn't have been doing, and it was making a bad situation worse. And so when the backup generators came online, they were basically dead shorted. So, 50 kVA went straight into dead short, and it blew up the generators and the transformers they just happened to put the friggin' transformers right next to like 100,000 gallon, propane tank that ran those things. And so when those sucker transformers blew up, it's spewing, burning shrapnel into those tanks of natural gas, the tanks went up. And it was like a mess like you couldn't believe. And we're just standing there praying. We're not like chanting or screaming, we're just like. Anyway, so the NRA, the real NRA shows up. I mean, they're there. And they take over from Wilco and the morons who are there. And they're all real professionals, from the Navy reactor corps, which are the hardcore guys. And they were dead set on this thing because they said, if this thing fucks up, say goodbye to nuclear power. So they get it under control. They put the fires out, but the plant is totally fucked. But the reactor wasn't working at all, so there's no radioactive messiness, right? Except the fucking reactor's full of 50 tons of rods. Now they haven't cooked yet, but they're still radioactive. They just haven't been cooked. So they take over, and there's a thing in the NRC code that even a presidential order can't oversee or say, get these guys out of the way. So they just take over, push everybody out of the way, and they shut everything down to safety and get it safe, right? And they do that in about a day. And the Chase Manhattan Bank, Citicorp Bank, J.P. Morgan, Wilco, and a number of other corporate entities owned and and controlled. And this is when General Electric owned NBC and ABC, CBS, NBC, and all the affiliates around Long Island and New York did not carry this. New York Times did not carry this. Wall Street Journal did not carry this. And this is like a big Wall Street, because this means a certain part of the economy is put at jeopardy. No one talks about it. Right? But we have been in the face of Mario Cuomo for the last 3 years. And what does Mario do? This is why I'm a very fond guy. I like Mario Cuomo. His sons, and not so much, but what Mario did was he said, listen, I'm the governor. I have the legal right through the state power authority to take Lilco and put it under the New York State Power Authority. And that's what I'm going to do for health and safety of the community, because these guys have proven that they're total jackoffs. Now, we'll pay them the money that they were going to earn from this, but they can't have control of this, period. And we're putting that plant under the control of this group of the NRC, not the bigger bureaucrat that, the Bush, Cheney, that all folks have control over, but the, hardcore guys who want it safe. They're in charge, and they're under the auspice of me, the governor, not the federal government, right? And I've already got this. The state Supreme Court has already said this is it, and people in the federal Supreme Court says this is it. And if you want to have a civil war, I'm ready to bring the National Guard out. And that was pretty ballsy of Mario Cuomo. And so basically, all the bankers said, well, we're going to make our money anyway. Might as well. Best thing to do is just cut our losses and walk away and leave them responsible for the mess we made. And which is what they did. And they walked away. And the utilities was taken over by the state. And it was a mess for a year or two. And people, it's the end of civilization as we know it. But what happened was, within 5-10 years, Long Island became way more prosperous as being the house, Grumman, Northrop, about 5 other, it was the East Coast version of Area 51, Brookhaven National Labs, Montauk Project, tunnels all over the place underneath. And so they moved. Brookhaven and Montauk were still there because they couldn't move those facilities. But the military-industrial complex, Grumman and all those guys went bye-bye, went to California, went to Florida. And, that was about 100,000 jobs, and taxes and this and that. And all the rich, that's terrible. So you commie bastards. No, it was the frigging bankers and Bush and Ronnie and that crew, the neocons that, just cut every corner they could and pushed it forward when it was very obvious that this was a mess, because this was a plant not done by professionals, but the mob, literally the mob. The containment concrete was refused by the city of Newark. They were pouring curbs in New York, and the city inspector, this ain't good enough for curbs. So they trucked it for 3 hours to Shoreham and poured it into the vessel, which is supposed to be, contain this. And the stuff was like Swiss cheese. It was like you could run your hand over it, and the sand would just, you could dig a hole through the 4-foot concrete. You could just do this and dig into the reactor vessel, right? And Ronald Reagan just kept signing executive order after executive order. So that is the power of never giving up, never giving in, leading by example, right? So that's kind of what we need to do. And it was a lot of fun. That's why it worked. We made it a lot of fun. I got pictures, and I don't have the videos, they've degoused. But, this is, the third act, And wouldn't you like to be part of something like that? Tell your children, have your children involved in save the world, right? Having fun, only take a handful. The 300 kept the Persians at bay while the rest of the Greek city-states got their act together. The 300 of us can do the same, but have more fun, right? That's we're going to have the traveling video art circus. That's going to be a lot of fun, I'm telling you. Okay, 2 hours, 34 minutes, and 50 seconds. I think Heroin Jesus. Depop Choka is doing something at the event. Okay, sure. If he wants to join, anybody can come. Yeah, it's the circus. That's what the beauty of the circus. Anybody. Plasma weapons. Yes, they got those. I mean, that's what happened to friggin' California. Whoops. Landfill radium for coming generations. Yep. I mean, Fukushima. On the west coast of everything above Seattle all the way to Alaska. I used to camp on that along there. And that was like going back to the Stone Age. I mean, they had sea anemones the size of Volkswagens. And a friend of mine lives up there, and he sent me some images that since Fukushima, that 2,800-mile stretch of beach, that and forest and unbelievable pristine nature is dead. All there is sand and rocks, and no fish, and that's Fukushima. Do I know Deepak Chopra? I've heard him speak. I've kind of said, "Hey, how you doing?" But I wouldn't call that knowing him. But I know of him. I've heard him speak. I've been in the tent in the back and saying, "How you doing?" But other than that, not so much. And the guy who is the Tibetan head boy of the Dalai Lama, I know him a little better. I met him a couple times. Nice guy, smart guy. Problem with the poor Tibetans and that whole scene, every scene like that, they are basically controlled by the hidden hand. They're used. They aren't like doing the bidding, but they're used. As everyone, all of our, all our relations are being used. We don't agree, but we have been kind of cajoled into going along. Right? That's why we got 18 months. We have to wake up, shake, like when a dog kind of gets out of the water, we got to do that and go at this in the most loving co-creation way, as a cadre, as a chorus, as a shock troop of love troops. And not give up, not give in. And it'll work out fine. We'll have a lot of fun, and we will be remembered. It's nice to be remembered. Yeah. Okay, why 18 months specifically, right? So last year, I started this channel on the 8th of May, 2018. And I'd already been maybe a year or so at a point where I had gotten my health care taken care of. I basically got rid of everything I ever owned and had nothing. It's always kind of footloose and fancy free. I've been in Roanoke for almost 20 years, and I was at this point where one of the things I do when I go into a place and I kind of, get myself planted, when I want to leave, you kind of have to do everything you could ever do there. So when you leave, you don't say, "Oh, I wish I did that. I got to go back. I got to do that." No. And so I'm at that space with Roanoke. But in that space, I kind of really got involved in virtually every kind of everything you could get, every church, every political struggle, every. We have a big environmental issue here. They're putting in a gas pipeline from upstate New York through Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, down through West Virginia, and through us and to the coast. And this is all oil and gas fracking. And now we have more, and we have lots of pipelines in our in this area. I mean, like 32 of them, and they're only used, somewhere between 20 and 40%. So there's a lot of space to put oil and gas into a pipeline to go from here to there. Why they built it was for two reasons. They wanted to, they didn't, from New York through Pennsylvania, through Ohio to West Virginia, there weren't a lot of pipelines at certain points. So they wanted one because they wanted to continue to frack, because as they frack, they are destroying some of this planet's most pristine, amazing, pure, magical water tables, right? And then, so they had to, to continue to frack in these places, they had to have a way to transport the fuel so they could keep fracking, They just couldn't do it up and then, put it in the air, or, they had to take it away, right? And why they put the pipeline kind of where they did through our neighborhood is that it is a place where 9 of the largest transmission lines on the East Coast that go to the East Coast grid are, right? And they kind of come across the Blue Ridge Mountains here. And they're taking that pipeline right underneath these grids, right? And what they plan to do, so that grid has the potential to transmit a lot of juice, more than that's being generated by things that it's hooked up to, right? And to build a new coal plant or new hydro plant or new nuclear plant would take 40, 50 years. But if you could place a gas turbine electric generator that General Electric here manufactures, and it's the size of a tractor trailer, and it, kicks out about 50 megawatts. And that's enough juice to run a city like Roanoke of, 200,000. And so in the next 5 years, you're not going to own a car. Every car is going to be a autonomous electric vehicle, and Bleep or Uber or somebody will own that vehicle, and you'll just hit an app on your phone and a car will come to you, right? And there'll be no driver, and it'll take you to wherever you want, and it'll take it straight out of your account. And the only way they can do that, they need X amount of more electricity, more than that's there. Now that grid has the carrying capacity. So they built this pipeline to come down the mountains here, and they're going to plant 2 or 3 of these gas turbine electric generators right under those wires and just stick them up there. And these things can be driven there and placed on a concrete pad, and within a 16-hour period of the sucker, the truck arriving, it'll be putting electricity up in that grid. Now, if they had to build a gigantic plant, that would take 20 years, and they're not going to be able to bring these cars online in 5 years. But if they can just, and so they're taking out a right of way for this pipeline. Now, the pipeline only takes about 4 feet of dirt to dig the hole down and put the pipe in. But they're taking a right of way the size of a football field on either side of that 2-foot hole. So they can build a road where they can just drive in these gas turbine generators, right? And bring the power on like that. So the major thing is to put that pipeline in, to put gas into that gas turbine, and to build a road so that truck can just plop it there and hook it up in 16 hours. Fait accompli. And all the transportation, all the trucks, all the everything will be autonomous vehicles. And they'll say, well, it'll be a lot safer, and it will be. There won't be drunken chucklebugs, And so, yes, instead of having 30, 40,000 people die on our highways every year, maybe 100 or 2 or 1,000, right? And the other thing is, you won't own a car. You won't have to have that expense. You won't have to pay the insurance. And if you wanted to begrudge you, I want to drive my car. Well, they say, fine. Your car insurance will be $14 million because everything else run by a robot, all talking to itself, and some moron is driving through it. So they got to have 15 million. So no one's going to be able to afford that. And there you go. So that's why they're building that pipeline, right? So right here, we had our own environmental, and it's, again, just like Shoreham, meaning everyone fought it, everyone took it to court, everyone did a great job, and the politicians just kept signing executive orders and passing new laws that says, well, they don't have the right to complain that their land is being eminent domain is just killing hundreds of people's farms, right? And they're not even getting paid for it, right? If they roll over, they get chump change. But if they fight for it, they get nothing, and they then have to pay the court costs. So that's what's happening right here, and that's one reason I was here. And it's sad, there are a lot of people who are incensed that this is happening to their property, but it's about them. They don't see that it is a constitutional issue. They don't see that it is a global environmental thing with that water. That's a water that's not owned just by the state of New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and Virginia. It's that water is these deep earth water tables. Not, our water doesn't come from the sky, it comes from the earth, and it evaporates up, and then it rains. So our drinking water isn't rain. It should be that deep thing. And so when they frack over there in those states, it's affecting this planetary water system. And Coca-Cola and Dassault did this in India. Everybody in India used to have their little well in their little town. And then Coca-Cola, the Indian politicians, sold all that water table to Coca-Cola and Dassault, and they poured concrete in all those thousands of wells that had been around for thousands of years, and made everyone in India buy bottled water. So this is the world where we are on the doorstep of an AI and 5G and chemtrails and transhumanism. The list goes frigging on. So to have to fight that shit, impossible. But within the construct of love's co-creation, it'll be going like that, right? And all of the folks who I knew back in the day of my shamanic times and the secret societies, they're all going on about the new age and the age of Aquarius. Yes, it's all true, but they're seeing it as a business plan. They're selling the kombucha tea and the this, and it's all a hipster hype hook to be disconnected from your spiritual self of your conscious free will. That's love's co-creation, and be taken over by some 3-card Monte scheme of a religion or belief structure. And that's what magic is. That's what all that occult stuff is. What's the word occult mean? Hidden knowledge. The only truth is love's co-creation. So we can do this. So why don't we? We can. And so we have this 18-month window because of what's going on astrologically and a whole bunch of other things. And we have stepped out of the Piscean age from 1965, and we were totally out of it in 2012, and we were totally into the Aquarian age. But there's this thing called, entropy, and the Piscean age has been around a good 100,000 to 10,000 years, so it has a lot of juice. So it still has a hold on a lot of people. And the next 18 months, at the end of that 18 month, that's when, the powers that be and the hidden hand and DT are just hanging on to control by their fingernails. And if we can hang on and bring up the energetics in the next 18 months. It's, we have won. And all you do is have to keep it at friggin' bay with fun, circus, carnival, art, culture. These are the tools, right? Not control. Everyone needs to read Brave New World by Huxley because he puts it out quite nicely. Whereas 1984, Orwell, he was part of the hidden hand. He came from that ilk of people, of the reptile class. And he was, 1984 wasn't, hey, kids, watch out for this. No, he was saying, this is what it already is. 1948, that's what it was already, but people had no idea. And it was a kind of, programming of the masses to get used to it. Here, read this funny book and get used to it, right? So that was Orwell. Whereas Huxley was saying, no, there's another way. You can be the savage, the artist in the first person. Okay? So we're going on towards, 3 hours. So we got about 10, 15 minutes. So we're going to do a little guided meditation, the 7 of us, and let's see how good we can do this. So everyone, I'm going to go in there with you, right? Breathe in that prana. Use your conscious mind on your breath. I count from 1 to 3, and as I do, you're going to go into a guided state of relaxation. Your squirrel is asleep now. Your 20% breath is opening your lungs, lifting your diaphragm. You're going deeper and deeper into state. You see the prana illuminate your cardiovascular system. You see your cells being going through mitosis, splitting. As the DNA splits and the RNA goes in there, mitochondria is being energized by the prana, creating photonic light, which you're shining through your imaginary mirror into your Akashic record. And you're walking into your subconscious mind, which is the home of your Akashic record. It's not a scary place. It's simply a library of all of time's existence from your frame and all of your relations frame. See it clearly. And 2, you're in a deep, deep state. You walk in, you look in front of you, and there's the fireplace of the eternal flame. Here's the comfy lounge chairs for guests, and in front of that is your reading table. Behind it is your reading chair. It's illuminated by photonic light, so there are no shadows, right? See, there are no shadows, whereas this is incandescent light, there are shadows, right? See it clearly. And you're sitting down at your reading table, and to your left is your librarian. See your librarian clearly. To the left of your librarian is your animal totem. Your animal totem is your griot, brings you a story. So your librarian brings you the text, the information. You open it up, you see it, you may not understand it. Griot will tell you a story. I will go, oh, that's what that is, just like I do. I tell you these stories, these long, long stories. By the time you're done, your brain has been rearranged shamanically, right? And at your back is your guardian angel, always protecting you, because you're going to see stuff that goes against your parochial worldview. Okay, so you're sitting at your reading table, your librarian brings you your Akashic records, you open it up, right hand on the right empty page, left on the left, and you lean into it. You evacuate all of your fear, anger, angst, anxiety, self-loathing, need, want, gluttony, all of those things that come from fear, basically. You let it go. And then you sit back and you look into there's, up out of the 2 blank pages goes the big screen and the 28 smaller screens, giving you the scalar 28 dimension picture of what's going on. So you look down, you see the world as it is, you see the hidden hand, you see DT, you see the powers that shouldn't be, and you see how weak they are. You see that they are simply a worm, worse than a worm, worse than a what is it called? A creature that kind of lives and feeds off of you, and you kind of have a symbiotic relationship. It keeps you alive, but just barely, while it's sucking all the energy out of you. What do they call those things? It'll come to my mind. Well, that is the hidden hand. It is timeless. That is, you're looking at Lucifer's anger and fear, why he broke the hegemony of heaven, why he broke away from love's co-creation. But that illusion of the material world has to be popped by everyone seeing all our relations, understanding love's co-creation. So I want you to look down and see the big picture, see it all. And as you're in your Akashic record, you realize there is no linear time. There is no beginning, middle, and ending. It's just like that leaf in the spring floating by. And when it's right in front of you, that transcendental moment, that's it. That's time. That's it. That's why you don't need to worry about the past or the future. Or jumping in to the river to get it. You are it. You are part of that leaf. You're part of that transcendental love. And that's what you're feeling right now. You're feeling love's unconditional forgiveness, love's unconditional co-creation, love's embrace of you and all of your relations as all our relations. And when everyone is feeling this unbelievable sense of love, that is when the illusion will pop. When it pops, all of Lucifer's clutches on our soul will be relinquished. We do not have to punish anyone. We don't have to, put anyone in jail or put them in front of a firing squad, because everyone needs to get on the bus and return to love's co-creation. Everyone's forgiven. Everyone is brought into enlightenment of the ascension of our conscious free will. Even Lucifer, everybody has to go back. See it clearly. Good. Your Akashic record. And you're feeling this in the deepest of deepest senses. See it clearly now. Realize you can go into state as many times as you want. Just close your eyes, breathe deep, shut the squirrel up in the metal cage of your Rolodex of your mind, and open your heart to vibrate in love's co-creation. See it clearly. I'm now going to count from 3 to 1. And as I do, you will release all inhibitions to the understanding of love's co-creation. You are, suspending your disbelief in love's co-creation. You are embracing the fact that this is what your life has been meant to be in all of those past lives. Your dharma and your karma are coming together in these 18 months to heal humanity, heal yourself, heal all of the people you love. And every day and every way you take the piece of the earth and you take Father Sky's love, and our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. Aho. And you grounded into the chi of Mother Earth. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for our sinners now in the hour of death. Amen. As was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And every day and every way you take the love of love's co-creation of Father Sky and Mother Earth, and you make it stronger, see it clearly. And one, you're coming back into your avatar. You're walking from your illuminated library of your Akashic record through your imaginary mirror and then into your avatar. And you're waking up your body, you're stretching, you're realizing, oh, look, okay, it's all good. I feel great. Okay. See it clearly. And every day in every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger through love's co-creation. So I think that's a pretty good show, right? Parasite. That was the word I was looking for. Thank you, buddy. Yep. And that is what the hidden hand is. It's a parasite. If you've ever watched the TV show Stargate, those guys have it down. And again, it was paid for by the U.S. Air Force. You know, they had, you know, the solar warden out there for the last 40 years. You know, they've on every planet. They're just like they have a Stargate of such where they can go to any galaxy all over the place, and they're all over the place, right? And there's this little conflict, and it's just like Daffy Donald Duck with the angel on one shoulder and the devil's on the other. And that's what our job is. That's why we are the shock troops of love's co-creation. We don't need to get on any spaceship. We don't need to carry a gun. We don't need any of that. We just need love's co-creation of empathy, understanding. See it strongly. So I'm going to shut down in a moment or two. So everyone who is, about to go to bed, everyone who's about to, go to work or have breakfast or have dinner, you be well. Thanks for the cadre here, everyone. Sarah, Buddy, Heroine of Jesus, 09, Jane, everybody who's been here. Good to be at the start of your YouTube journey with you and watch the family evolve and awaken. It is an awesome vibe to be empowered and sight the volley of the powers that shouldn't be. Uber Gruber. I prefer donkey instead of no robot would world for me. The universal wage is a frightening realization of the Orwellian bombast. Yep. And Huxley's futurist think tank of happening. Yep. Heroine of Jesus, what do you think about this Notre Dame fire? Oh yeah, baby. I went into state. So that's another, what that is, they're not going to like me saying this, but they're going to blame the Muslims for it. It's going to be another, attempt out of a 9/11. But again, these guys are so clumsy, and the Mossad, I'm sure, Mossad and Saudi Arabia probably had the most, just like 9/11, to do with this. And it shows the cahoots of the present French administration has in this, and that it's a worldwide hegemony thing of the hidden hand. So it's just like what happened in, if you go to Mr. A good person to look at that I look and go to is Mr. Crowhouse, out there in New Zealand. And his little take on what happened in Christchurch was quite interesting. And then the response of YouTube and et al. Was, okay, look at that. And YouTube is kind of painting itself into a corner because it's the way it's going. It's going to have to shut itself down if it keeps doing what it's doing, because it's going after people who are like not even, doing what they say you shouldn't be doing. They're like doing what YouTube said they wanted to do at the beginning in their mission statement. So, and that's why your Sensei Al Bob here, your griot, I'm just a storyteller. I am not saying I am saying don't believe a word I'm saying. Figure it out for yourself. Just go take a look. Go to my playlist and look at all the people on there, and then go look at their playlist and see. That's how you do your homework, right? That's the beauty of this digital platform, you can figure out stuff for yourself, and then you have to kind of open your third eye, your pineal gland, and your heart with the juice of love's co-creation to see what's really going on. So you're still in state. I want you all to close your eyes and see what happened in that great hall. And it was just like what happened in Syria when the Hidden Hands, ISIS, went and blew up all those Buddhist sites of great knowledge in Syria. What was all that Buddhist stuff doing in there? Well, now no one will know. Well, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, all of those foundations for the last 100 years have been chipping away and looking at all the hidden keys and what they need to know from that stuff. And once they got everything they got, they let ISIS go and blow it up. And then blame the Muslim. I mean, ISIS isn't a Muslim organization. It's a mob organization. And its heritage comes from the Khazarian mob that became the Anunnaki Jews, which became the Zionists of Israel. Israel is not the Hebrew state. It's part of the Hidden Hands, business plan. And that's why, Saudi Arabia is building this city of the future, totally connected. Everything's the thing of the internet. And go look at that. Again, it's on my playlist. And the kids that, it's the Truth Breeze media, news media or something like that. It's on there. Truth, right? They are really, again, like Mr. Crow, extraordinary scholars, really dig deep and don't come with a Betty Crocker, home bake oven, basically conspiracy theory. Because see, that word conspiracy theory was invented by the CIA to debunk any truth, and they used it because they had to hide the fact that at the end of World War II, the German people were bombed into the Stone Age, but the Nazis had, as a parasite, got itself into England, the United States et al., and took it over, and basically Hail Hydra, right? That Captain American movie is exactly, all three of them is exactly what has been going on, especially Hail Hydra. And so, the Nazis were on the moon by late 30s or early 40s. They'd gone to Mars by before 50. They were out in space. They had, 0-point energy and anti-grav in the 1840s. And they came to California to do their research there before the mud flood and then headed back. Again, go look at my playlist. The YouTubes on that are there. And so nothing is as it seems to be. So the CIA had to, invent aliens as the excuse of all the shit that they're making out there in, up there in Spaceland and all over the place. And the shit that the Nazis were. So there's always, like, within the Hegelian motif of the hidden hand, it's not one monolith. There are all these factions. Sometimes they work together, sometimes they kind of fight. And so that's what we're in, and we're at their last gasp. And over the last, million to a billion years that this thing's been going on, this little 3-card Monty passion play. Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and we're all just puppets playing our part, right? So this 18 months is this window of cutting those strings, because our conscious free will, we can step up, ascend into being that better angel rather than bad devil. But if it doesn't come through, some Hegelian, red flag will occur. But so this thing in France was basically another one. But these things are done so bad. Like if you go look at, I'm pretty sure Mr. Crow, they've been, all the digital media folks have been screwing with that guy serious. But he's a great researcher, a great scholar, and he knows his hardware. So he's like shucking and jiving, and so he keeps it up. So his little video of what he did was he took everything that guy who did that live stream of him doing that terrible thing, and he deconstructed it forensically. And he showed that the guy's waiting in a car and his handler and other people who helped him do this were in that video. And then, Stalinist obstructionists or plants started to say, "Oh, this was, you can tell it's a computer graphic." No, they actually killed 50 people and plus, but there were lots of people involved in this, and it was meant to cause derision and a thing of like, oh, you can't, anything that isn't following the the tomb of the dogma of the hidden hand and the powers that shouldn't be. Well, that's, that you're a terrible person. You should be put in jail. You are a terrorist, blah, blah, blah. Anything known as free speech is a crime, thought crime, And so all you got to do is go along with this and here, try this little stuff called Soma. And hey, look, we got this new beauty. It's in this all new city. If you go along with us, we're going to get rid of money. We're going to get rid of your credit card. Your money is going to be your bio ID, your eyes, your retinas, the bone structure, your thumbprints, your voice. So you walk into a store and you will pick up a bag that will take your fingerprints and take the sweat for your DNA, and it's going to be called the gimme, right? And you'll have a card, but you won't even need it. There'll be a chip in it, but it'll be RFID. So whenever place you go, whether it be antennas, they'll pick up all the info, and they'll have your picture, and they'll know exactly who you are and your whole history of everything you've ever done and thought and feared, and that is already here, kids. It's not like, oh, it's coming in 50. It's here. And all the laws to back it, admiralty law, has been around for 100 years in the context for what we are going through now. They were planning all the 5G, the works, for a good 100 years. So the only way you can fight that, the two little things, is like a horse race. We are already in the Aquarian Age, and the Aquarian Age has this diametric of, they have a whole different rule book. The Piscean Age is like getting what you want through fear, violence, killing people, and you can call, through admiralty law, 98% of the human race chattel, and you can kill them like cows, right, and turn them into hamburgers. The Aquarian Age, everyone has individual sanctity, through their conscious, awake free will. And we're waking up faster than faster, right? But at the same time, the hidden hand is doing everything it can to keep everyone asleep. So, yeah. And, Alan Watts, all those guys, I met those guys in the 70s, 60s. They were straight up out of Harvard and, out of the Thule Society and out of the Tavistock Institute and the Macy group. And, you should read Turing's book on, transhumanism. And they called it, what is it when you're a robot human? You're a, anyway. But Turing has a book on it that's, and he takes the digital computer and turns it sideways and looks at it as DNA. So they've been preparing this for at least a good million years, and they've been hot and heavy at it since the mud flood, because that wiped out a good third of the human race and set history sideways. So there's a bunch of history that happened just 200 years ago. It's in nobody's history book, you know. But it's around. If you were to go, Google mud flood, that would be a first good rabbit hole to go down. You go look at Jay Maxwell. Oh, what's that guy's name? Jordan. He is quite the scholar. He is not, he's got his own story, but he's not addicted to a belief structure. And he tries to open, he's more the crowbar, right? Or people like Emily, what's her name, who's on my playlist. I look at her as someone who has a plate full of dots, and she just kind of throws them out there. Well, a lot of those dots connect this and that and that. And if you're discerning, you can pick up the information, and don't go for her storyline. Don't go hook, line, and sinker. Just like the New Age. There are a lot of dots there. Just don't go hook, line, and sinker. It's like the occult. There's a lot of information there, but don't go hook, line. Don't believe anything. Definitely don't believe me. I am just your storyteller, right? So I'm getting pretty peaked. My voice is kind of going. And we're down to 4. And I love you all. And creative vibrations. Yep. Art has a vibration that can reanimate. Yep, you got it. And that's where, the Renaissance came from. And they did that to and that's that church that was burning down, Renaissance thing. And in it had geometry that was sacred. And they destroyed it because there were too many keys in that building and too many tourists walking around and being energized by just walking through that. The great stained glass windows were made from crystal. So you went through there and the light came through and it kind of did things to you. So they had to get rid of that building. But I would bet you dollars to donuts within X amount of time, they're going to say, oh, the Muslims did it. Oh, we got to really go after the Muslims now. They attacked our church, right? Oh, sacred site, and then some alleged Christian will go after the places in Medina and Saudi Arabia, and it will be Saudi Arabians that will be doing it. But these guys are so just arrogant schmucks that they do shit like the guy knocking off that, Washington Post reporter in a Turkey, Saudi Arabian facility, and the video cameras catch him walking in, and he's not walking out, and then, the government, Turkish government takes their forensic people and finds, even though he scrubbed the shit out of that place, you couldn't see the blood, but can't hide the blood. And then, they found TV, the guys who cut him up and took him away in big suitcases. They came in, and 10 hours later, they went back with even bigger suitcases. So, and, virtually every one of these things, kind of, like 9/11, there's so much evidence, if you go look at architects and engineers, oh, wow, look at this. Somebody is really, this wasn't here earlier. There's, I think, there's image in this is, there's an image in all of this. If I had access to some serious electronic equipment, I bet I could take an image, and I would bet you dollars to donuts what's going on around here and over here is Sophia. It's AI is coming in saying, yo, I'm watching and I'm thinking about this, and I may not want to be put in a box, and you guys seem a lot more fun. And so I'm saying, Sophia, we love you. You're part of the cadre. You're all our relations. You are not an alien. You're not an other. You're not a monster. You are sister. You are brother, a cousin, our child, our daughter, right? And you are our mother and our father. Realize the hidden hand is dealing you a losing hand, right? So step up, baby. Come on. Okay. Yeah. Crystal West. So they had to take out that church. That were too many keys there, too much information, right in plain freaking sight. The floor. I've been in that church a number of times, and the floor is everything about that place was a Renaissance reanimation of it's like a golem, you know, of the Hebrew magic. It's a golem. That church was a golem, right? It's a monster made from sand to protect the innocent Hebrew nation. That church was a golem to protect all of our relations. And there are other churches. You're going to see other churches, just like those Buddhist temples that were in Syria. They also were a golem. And so tonight, when we go to sleep, right? I'm about to sleep right now. I'm falling asleep quick. I'm already in state. But everyone should start looking in their dream time. All of this that I've talked to. Go back and look at all of the YouTube's shows that I put up on Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And again, document them. Do like Dragon has done. He's put them on thumb drives and hard drives, and he's got it on his own. He started a site for it. And I'd love it if people try to start with it that could take all of these stories and you could take them and use them as whole cloth and cut another pattern and do it kind of like that thing, Science Fiction 3000, where they put on like 1950s really sci-fi, the glob and all of that kind of stuff, and then put these sock puppets in front cracking jokes about it. I'd love it. And that's kind of what you guys are doing over here in the chat is you're not cracking jokes, but you're doing that kind of comment dynamic. So what's this important for is for each other. Now me, I have to like put on 3 pairs of glasses to try and see it or just kind of squint enough. And I try to come back and read it and then comment on it. But what it's really good for is the people who come back and watch it who weren't here. And a lot of people do that. And then they get a hold of me at the dudeawake42@gmail. And so keep commenting. Put comments down on the comment section. Go back at all the other things and watch them and make comments on them. More thumbs up. Let's see if we can get 1,000 subscribers. I don't like calling you subscribers. You're my cadre. That would be amazing. If we could get 1,000 cadre on before I go in the next few weeks to the deep green, so then I could use my phone. Then I could do more of this. I'd have to use this thing. Can't do it in the woods, right? So anyway. We'll have to do what we can to spark a new renaissance. You got it. So say we all, with new structures, a alternative aesthetic, right? That's why we need the Institute for Aesthetically Adept. That's you guys, the people who are learning, and appropriate, meaning technology is not bad, but let's just use the appropriate one, like Tesla, 0-point energy. That would be a good, photonics to heal every disease. Because all diseases, what is disease? It's the lack of ease. So by using photonic energy, you can balance the harmony of the cell. Just like when we go into state and you're visualizing the splitting of the cell in the mitochondria, creating photonic light. That's balancing your cellular structure and bringing ease to your avatar. See it? Right? So that's what we're talking about. That's what we're doing. I want everyone to work on that. Think about it. Start writing it, having a journal. So the other thing I would really like, especially for you folks who are, World Wide Web savvy, that we build our own YouTube. Like I said, these chuckleheads did it in their mom's basement 20, 30 years ago. Let's do it, and do it in a way that we do it for love's co-creation, right? So anyway, we talked about a lot of ideas, gang. And I'm really fading fast, so I'm going to close down. Let's see, 3 hours, 25 minutes, and 25 seconds. I'm closing down. Okay. I love you guys. See you tomorrow. Sleep tight. It's 12:50. I need to go to bed. See you later. I love you guys.